Hello, everyone, and welcome to the the 10th session of the Infinite. Jesus. The problem is this, right? I clicked it as you said that's a big ask, but only on the big ask. So, I feel like this started with you just saying big ask, which is really funny, and then I clicked continue. So, we're here now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's session of The Infinite, a game that was always going to happen and not at any danger of being cancelled. This is, of course, the 10th episode. If anybody said differently earlier in this stream, they lied. I'm joined by the customary 80% of the cast while Andrew is away, having the best experience. Just a great experience from all accounts. Nothing terrible about that. How is everyone?
I am doing great.
I'm surprisingly well rested.
I'm surprisingly not.
I need to not be perceived.
Alright.
Tough.
Great. The
Tough
full
ask.
gamut. The full gamut from well rested to unperceivable. We pass without a trace on Kristen. It'll be fine. Alright, as I said, this is episode 10. We're moving into the double digits, which means we're getting more comfortable and more professional, and my camera will have all of me in it for a change. Since I didn't check that at any point in the lead up. This is going real good. Real fantastic. Our scene opens on a metallic bridge of a spaceship, unfamiliar to the audience, as it has yet to be seen in any real way on the screen of the Infinite. For a moment it's peaceful, and then it rocks back and forth with a thunderous blow as red lights begin to swirl, and the crew on this bridge move to battle stations. The moment of peace has been shattered by this huge impact down low in the hull of the ship. We see a couple of officers yelling for people to get to their stations. The shields flash back up, but the damage is already done as we pull out of the ship, and these huge, long, cable-looking contraptions have lodged themselves deep in the hull down near the engines of this ship. To particularly Kid, Lucera, you know what these are for reasons that will become obvious momentarily, but Kid would know these as boarding spikes. They are shot through a shield, and they just inject basically infantry into a ship. Pirates tend to use them occasionally. Mercenaries will use them. PMCs very rarely. But the camera swirls down like a fighter among the stars through the debris of metal that is already floating into the anti-gravity space. We come in through this hole that's been pierced, the shield already reformed, protecting the atmosphere of the people inside. And we see, hunkered down behind these huge, long spikes of metal that have lodged deep into the ship, mismatched outfits, metal on leather. There's some people wearing helmets. They're carrying very, very big weapons. They all look to be some form of rifle, but they're very big and they're very broad. They're painted as if with spray paint or somebody just flicking paint around. And they are hunkered down, issuing a few volleys of shots up into the ship. The camera follows some of these shots as one of them hits a crew member of the Tempesto, catching them in the chest and immediately just puncturing a hole straight through their chest. They're breathing heavily as Lucera, they were not that close to you, but you're already moving as you see them hit, and you're by their side kneeling, even as the rest of your squad that you happen to be down here kind of taking some newer recruits around to show them the ship. And to their credit, they have reacted quite well. However, I'd like you to make me, before anything else, a leadership roll to see. This is more a leadership roll for the entire empire, so you can roll it as your current leadership stat. Just for how well they have
Boy,
been
my
trained
current
to
one.
this point.
Okay.
We'll have to reverse some of your ranks if you roll them for this flashback. But
To do my full 5 ranks, or should I do like
no, this is a
what I would
full
have
one.
had at this time?
This is the Empire's training come to bear before you've really even got your chance to
Okay.
work with these people. So,
Oh my god.
well, that's not good.
Natural 1.
Yeah, so they have been trained,
Oh god.
and as you're looking at them, your first reaction is, "Oh, they're doing the right thing," but then your second reaction is, "Oh, because it's self-preservation." As they dive into into open doors down here, there's a lot of interlacing corridors. They duck into these doors, and you were maybe leading, maybe 15. They're military people. You're giving them the tour as a high-ranking military officer. But of the 15 of them, one of them has been hit, and you're pulling them back towards cover, and 4 of them just full scatter into the ship. You don't know where they're gone, but you're left with 10 functioning people as you look down at this person. They're breathing heavily. There is a hole through their Imperial issue armor, and you can see the floor through their torso.
I'm pulling them back, and then I'm just would I have I probably wouldn't carry any medical stuff on me since I wasn't expecting an attack. So
you would have a very basic first aid kit because of kind of your rank. I think you're prepared enough to always be carrying a small thing, because they're also much smaller than a modern day medical pack, because a bandage is a tiny little square that will just expand to whatever you need it to be. So you can have some stuff.
I'll probably once they're back in cover, I'll be like, it's okay, it'll be fine, everything will be fine, and we'll go to reach for her bag and know that it's not going to be enough.
Make a medicine check.
What would that be in this game?
Xenophysiology. I apologize.
Oh, good. +1. Hey, that's good. It's a 16.
You're looking, and your instinct is no, this person's done. But alien physiology is kind of weird sometimes, and you do notice that the the shot has gone through one of their lungs, but they're still breathing, and you see a slight rise in a couple of other points. They have maybe more lungs or more segmented lungs than normal, your physiology would have, for example. They probably are going to live, provided they aren't immediately overrun by pirates. You don't really need to intervene that much, because there's nothing you can do about a shot that goes straight through and cauterizes the wound on the way out.
Okay. I will go to one of the other. Did you say they're cadets with me?
Yeah, they're a bit higher than cadets because you're doing Discovery Fleet training, so they have been through basic training, and they should be better than they are in a firefight than this.
They're like lieutenants or something.
No, probably they are they will be eventually the security guards on a Discovery ship. They won't be an away team or anything. They'll be the people that keep the peace.
Gotcha.
So a little bit
right,
below security guards, but they should still be better than they are performing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I will my hand is still pressed over the wound, even though it's not really doing anything. It's more just to kind of keep them still. And I will turn to one of the other people that I've been leading and say, "Stay here with them. The rest of you with me. We need to lock this corridor down."
Sure.
If you can and then I turn back to that and I say, if you can get to safety, get to the medical bay as soon as possible.
Sure. I'll roll for that guy. They nod, and they go to lift. As you've got your hand over the hole, by the way, you are feeling breath that they are bringing into a lung that is now ejecting it into your hand, and it's a really unsettling experience. You don't need to make a roll. Just think that there would be times in Luceria's life that you remember this moment of like someone breathing from their hole in their chest onto your hand. The person like picks them up from under the shoulders and starts dragging them. They get down the corridor a couple of bits, and then they're looking around. Like clearly, they have no way of knowing where to go, because either they weren't listening to your tour, or they didn't read the material that you had provided. But they just pick away, and it's away from the fighting, and that's probably the best you can hope for the next moment or two. The remaining 9, a couple of them have like pulled out. They've all got pistols as sidearms. None of them were carrying like rifles or anything. A few of them have pulled that out. A couple of them are just like hunkered down. But they all look at you, and you say you've got to lock this section down, and they seem ready to do whatever your next order is.
Are we actively being shot at right now?
The people are shooting up the corridor because they know that you're there. They're kind of just trying to stop you. They're trying to stop you from dislodging the boarding spike, because more people from the pirate ship can keep coming down this, basically.
Okay, I will send out. I'm not good at coming with formation names, but I will quickly instruct them to make a formation that allows us to can maintain cover but continue to inch forward.
Sure, a 586.
And hopefully take out the people.
That's
sure.
commonly a 586. You can use numbers for all of them. Like, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Sure, make a leadership roll.
No one yell at me for not knowing the names of formations.
Yeah, unless you say phalanx, I'm not going to know what a formation means anyway. So, but make a leadership roll for me.
Not make it a 1 again, shall we?
This is with your...
would this be the 13 again, or?
With your earlier ranks, so I think 3, probably.
Okay. I think that puts it at a... Yeah, at a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're basically trying to beat their urge to run, which I rolled separately.
16.
Yeah, so they... Again, some of them look ready to go, some of them don't. But they all listen, and they're all like... the pirates are clearly a bunch of individuals who are shooting at you, even with the rudimentary training that they have been given, and the fact that you don't very often have to lead troops in this way. There's like 4 people shooting out, and during that time, during that suppressing fire, people move down, and then they take their time to make shots, and it's like a very ordered movement forward. And you eventually get to the point where you run out of that space because it's about to hit where the boarding spike has come in. The pirates start to get a little bit more aggressive. You see one of them just breaks cover. They seem to be wielding a rifle with like an under barrel, which you know is generally a weapon that is not good if that gets fired. Make me a ranged weapons check.
Hey, thing I've only gotten to use, I think, once before.
Yeah, you guys don't fight a lot.
Dex, right? Not intelligence.
It's Dex. I don't think you have a gun that runs on intelligence, although they exist.
Oh, right. It was that specific to gun types. I have a pistol, so.
Yeah, I think your pistol is just a standard issue.
I'm rolling like garbage. That's a 10.
As you take a shot, and it just like bounces off the edge of the armor. However, as the person like jolts back, it brings them into the line of one of the other shots that somebody has made. Perhaps sometimes when you're fighting, you just get lucky, and perhaps that's what happened in this moment. Is it catches them like just underneath the jaw and just pierces straight through this laser bolt out the other side. And whatever they were planning on doing, they're now worried far more about the state of their jaw and face. As they slumped kind of to the ground, blood pouring from the wounds. Your lasers don't cauterize on the way out every time. Sometimes they do. But as this is happening, and as you're seeing the cadets take a bunch of shots, your smart slab starts pinging with a very particular tone. Like, there's an urgency to it that is not your normal ringtone. And you recognize that it's almost always going to be
as I'm like Oh yeah, I don't even like look at it. I just tap it and put it on speaker so I can hear what she's saying.
Lucira, I'm sure you're aware there's boarding spikes. And she hears like this huge amount of firing, and she goes,
Busy.
"Oh, good. One of the engineers has rigged the sprinkler system in your area that it will rain down some other chemical that for some reason they have access to and will be disciplined about later. We just need someone or some people to try and trigger the fire alarm."
We can do that. We'll get out of the way too, so we don't get hurt ourselves.
You hear Melba like
and I'll
shouting
close the connection.
as you end the connection. She's shouting it like into another data, so I have to tell somebody else in a different section. The camera like pans away from you and goes deep into the ship, where we see just in a room there's this huge tank of what looks like a saline water solution that would normally be used for the fire suppression system, and it's being drained from the bottom, and at the very top they've quickly like erected a scaffolding and they've levered the top of this tank open, and they're literally just pouring this sickeningly bright blue liquid directly into the top of it, and its density is such that it floats on top of the water. But we see the camera kind of follows it down, and we see it begin to bubble as it interacts with the water. But the camera pulls back, and we find it back behind Lucira's shoulder. The easiest way to start the fire system is by starting a fire. But there are certainly just pure fire alarms that are around somewhere. So you can roll me a d20 to see how lucky you are about proximity of fire buttons. And then maybe think about
I was gonna ask if I can. I was gonna ask if I could just roll a perception check to see if I can see a sprinkler and shoot the sprinkler, see if that would start it. But
you can. That won't.
works.
I think you know that that won't work. Is that a
it's another
again?
one.
Okay. Yeah. There's no fires. There's no manual activation of the fire suppression system in this sector, except for directly where that spike has plunged through the wall, and you suspect that one won't work anymore. But you can try shooting a sprinkler. I think you're an intelligent enough person to know that that doesn't work. On these ships, it is a more significant thing. So that leaves you largely with one choice.
I will shout back to my the people who are with me and say, we need to start a fire and then get out. So I will look for anything that's flammable. And is my pistol a laser pistol, or is it a bullet pistol?
You can pick. They're both standard issue, so it's whatever you prefer. I don't think we've...
Okay.
I think it's a bullet, because I think you shot Alejandro in the shoulder, and it was a bullet. But I'm not 100% sure.
Well, because I've got it. I have two. I have the tiny one and the regular one, and that one is the loadable one.
Sure. Then you have either.
Okay. Also, this is a loading pistol. Not a loading pistol. That doesn't make any sense. A laser pistol. And we'll look for anything that is flammable material.
You hear from one of the voices. You haven't been with these people long enough to pick voices. You hear Commander, what's the Empire's stance on smuggled contraband alcohol?
Doesn't matter, let's use it.
And you just hear someone roll this bottle down the corridor towards you. I rolled a 20 for luck for your platoon when you rolled a 1. You just see this bottle of what it might have had a label at one point, but it's been ripped off, and the seal on the top is clearly broken, so whatever alcohol is in here is new to the bottle, which probably serves your purposes slightly better. And they kind of rolled it forward to you. At this point, you're at the front of your group. There's another person on the other side that's presumably the most brave, the one that shot that person and hit them in the jaw, but the rest are kind of behind at different intervals of stuff. But you have a bottle of presumably alcohol. Unless that person was for some reason lying.
I love that they had it like on them during the tour too.
I think they came off the ship and maybe they were running late and had to do a tour immediately. Like, they were just
Oh, yeah.
like, you have a very busy schedule. A tour was meant to happen, so a tour will happen.
Great. If depending on how they rolled it to me, did they roll it to me or are they just kind of like rolling it past me?
They rolled it to you, such was the luck roll that I
Okay.
rolled. It comes directly to you where you need it to be.
Great. Then I will put it there, then I'll step back about 5 feet and then shoot it with my pistol so that it will go kaboom.
Sure, I'm not going to make you make a roll for a 5-foot shot when you can just stand there. There's a moment of silence from the group as everyone's kind of looking at you, and you just take one step back and lower your pistol and shoot, and there's a shattering of glass. And as the heat of the laser hits the extremely high-proof alcohol that was in this, the explosion is not as small as you maybe thought it would be because of the level of flammability of this alcohol. So I'm going to need you to make me an escape check, as will the brave soul that was at the front. Whoop.
Good thing I have nothing in that save.
Fine glass is good. Like, glass is good for a person.
It's a good 7.
7.
That's good, right?
You feel like your armor takes a lot of it, but you do feel a couple of like shards. One of them hits you like in the upper cheek, like nicks your cheekbone, and you feel it kind of lodge itself in the wall behind you. Another one stabs a bit deeper. This one catches you like in the probably your outstretched hand with the pistol. It like lodges into your wrist. It's like a slow trickle of blood that you can already feel is coming out. Like it's hit something major, but while it's in there, it's also kind of doing its job. The person on the other side had turned away, but you see like the top of the bottle has spun in the air and just collided into like the side of their shoulder and is lodged in to their shoulder, and it's filling from the inside with blood, making a perfect seal with the shoulder, and then blood starts to pour out the side of it. But
this is one of my people or one of the pirates?
Of your people, the bravest of your people that was at the front. But they are still able to move, and they like remember your order of then we got to get out of here, and they just start hustling. I will get you to make one more leadership check. You can have advantage because of your general rally ability, and like your ability to move people is above most. As I will.
Good. I rolled another 1, so it's a 8. So a plus 13, so 21.
Okay. I thought you'd rolled 1 again on an advantage check. Everybody breaks. You start running. The pirates kind of keep shooting at you, and they don't realize why you're all running until a moment later. That red light that has been swirling this whole time for the state of emergency on the ship stops for a second, and it begins to blink with like an orange light, which you know to mean that there's a fire situation. And from the sprinkler that you were looking at shooting, you look back and you see this foaming, bubbling blue. By the time it's hit this point, the chemical reaction with the water that was still left in the tank has turned it almost into a foam, and it begins to drop down out of the sprinkler. The sprinkler immediately just melts away, and it becomes like a tap, just pouring this foam, and it hits the top of one of these little spikes that's protruding, melts straight through it, and then the roof where these pipes all were begins to just falter as it acidically corrodes all the way through, and it just douses that entire corridor. And further down, you know that this sprinkler system that you just activated is going to be doing this to like 4 or 5 different corridors around you, but you also know which ones they are, so you can move forward.
As I run to, since I'm kind of grimacing with the hand that has all the glass in it, but with my other, I'll pull my smart stuff out with my other hand, my left hand, and we'll try to tap in a few commands to make sure those doors are shut so that the solution doesn't travel down the hallways.
It's traveling out of the ship. Like, it's going straight down. It's not pooling anywhere. You don't know what this chemical was, You can make a theoretical science roll if you really want to, but this is a thing that you
I don't
are
want
not
to.
aware of. I'm going to roll for that guy that got stabbed a lot.
It's for wisdom.
Intelligence. It's like just a pure do you know
Okay.
this exact thing. This will be the one that you roll really well on. To make me have to
Yeah,
come
it's
up
a
with a chemical
freaking
thing.
19. Jesus.
Sure. You remember from when you were getting your initial training, because of course, as we all know, you started as a civilian on the Tempesta. When you were going through the military side of the training, there's a lot of talk about chemical warfare and like how it's not used in the Empire. And there was a particular chemical reaction that people would use a long time ago. The Vysian Empire doesn't do it, but the previous empire did, where when water and a very particular alien substance mix, they create just these bubbling ripples of pure, like the most acidic thing that is creatable in the natural universe, and it just rips through anything. So that will rip into space, but it also has an essentially infinite shelf life, so that won't dissolve in space. And eventually what will happen will be that something will hit that, whether it be a faster than light traveling ship or a space whale, something like that out here, pirates. They will hit that and it will hit their ship and it will cut through their ship and it will exist forever in the universe. Like, it just does not go away. Meanwhile, as you're thinking about this and the ramifications of using that way of getting rid of pirates, you also suspect Melba didn't realize that that was the chemical reaction, because that probably goes beyond what Melba would authorize. We see the other person that was running has picked up the lid of the bottle on the way out and has closed the bottle so that the blood is not leaking out anymore. Which is worse. Absolutely, that's a worse thing to have done. Because that blood's going to go somewhere.
Yep.
But you lead the crew upwards, outwards. It's an eventful first day. Probably the most eventful day any of them will actually ever have. They all are suitably scared but also proud of their service. Like, they were part of getting rid of one of the boarding spikes. Going forward, they are some of the best guards that the Discovery Fleet has for a long time. And you are given another meaningless medal thing for just performance, which does Lucera care about these performance medals that she picks up?
She cares. She cares about them, but whenever she gets one, that's when she adds another tattoo. Or makes an addition.
That makes sense.
To the tattoo.
Okay, so in that case, this one is less. So you have been given medals that have been in front of a big crowd. This is one that Melba hands you in a meeting that you're having about something unrelated. It's 7 or 8 weeks later, and you're. It's not unrelated, but it's not about what you did. It's about cleanup stuff from that, because the ship takes a long time to get back to normal running state. That pirate ship, while you were dealing with the downstairs boarding spikes, there was a full ship battle happening. The pirate ship did damage to your ship beyond that before you were able to destroy it. So there's a lot of stuff to deal with. But Melba just says, Lucera, there's also, and she just slides this black box towards you, which you know to be a medal or some kind of certification. A box of some kind. She passes it across to you. It's a medal of imperial bravery, which is to lead people in an unexpected situation. It's got a little blue tint to it across, there's a blue sash across the Vysian Empire symbol. And she says, the Empire, of course, never forgets the servants that do the great work to protect the others. She's going through some paperwork, and you've been talking
Thanks,
about it.
Melba.
She smiles. You've been talking about this particular decision she's making for a while, because she's deciding what action to take against the person that had those chemicals on the ship. and she is of the opinion that despite the fact that it certainly saved lives, it is a contraband to the point where that person should be tried in in an imperial court. It was a civilian, technician, wasn't a military person. Her stance is that that person should be sent to imperial space and tried as a criminal for having that. But she is willing to take your input, as she always is, but even more so in this case because you were there when it was when the deed was done. You were there, and you also were the one that explained to her probably what that chemical was.
Yeah. Since they've been having to deal with the cleanup and repairs and everything for weeks, and Lucia is doing a lot of the personnel, healthcare type, making sure everyone's covered in that respect. She'll say to Melba, I agree that this person having this chemical was of the utmost danger on this ship. It did, however, save our lives, but it did also incredibly damage a very important part of the Imperial fleet. I don't necessarily think they need to be tried as a full criminal, or if they do end up getting tried, that there should be some sort of a reduction in possible sentence because it did save a very important fleet vessel.
Certainly. So if Melba just sends this through, it will be one of the 4 capital crimes of the Empire, which means you will face jail time. But you could absolutely attempt to convince Melba to put it through as something that is just a monetary thing, which still bad, not necessarily as bad as going to jail in the Empire, which is only murderers, people that have committed sexual assault, people that have committed treason, and people that have committed war crimes. I'll let you make a leadership check if you would like to convince Melba for the monetary crime.
Oh, there's also something else I wanted to say.
Sure.
Further, as this use of this chemical did cause problems in that particular sector of space that will be lingering for a long time, perhaps part of their sentence or reparations for having this chemical on a place that it was banned from is to assist either in via funding or via labor of helping to clean up the mess that they left behind.
She nods. She's writing all this down. Make a leadership check.
With my current stuff or my stuff that I would have had at that time?
You can have your current stuff as a bonus for the fact that you explained it very well. Also, don't you have reliable in leadership?
I do.
Okay. You can use that even if you roll a 1 for stuff. But
yeah, so that's gonna be not a 17. That will instead be a 24.
Okay. Yeah, she writes it all down, as she often does. She listens to you because you generally are speaking from a place of you're disconnected enough from the immediacy of the things she asks you about that you can be more wise than she is often emotional about it. Because she's still that's a problem forever, and even if our ship was destroyed, that is not a problem forever. So she was very emotional about it, and you managed to kind of talk her down. And she types in this thing, and she smiles. She shows you the report that she's putting in, and it does take on board all of your recommendations. You've probably met the person a couple of times just in debriefing since then, and they are genuinely apologetic about the destruction, but not really about having it. But some people have weird things. So she shows you the report. She sends it off. She smiles at you and says, "Oh, I'm taking a couple of days off, so you'll be filling my role for the next few days." This happens once every 18 months or so when she is legally required by the Empire to take time off. And she kind of stands up, and this, I think, is not the first time it's happened, but she, like, ceremonially, like, gestures for you to sit in her seat, which... There's a few weird quirks about Melba, and one of them is that she likes these moments of dramatic ceremony that are, like, really intimate. So she's just waiting for you to go sit in her seat.
Lucira knows this about her and understands the ritual sometimes is important, and she gets that because her tattoo is ritually important to her. So she'll get up, kind of straighten out her jacket, and we'll go ahead and sit gingerly in the chair.
Melba smiles and kind of puts her hand on your shoulder, and she looks down at you and she says, let yourself never be shaded by stars, which is a particular phrase that is relevant to you in other ways, but we will move along from that. The camera pulls out to a team of people working on this huge gaping chasm of metal that has just been eaten away by this corroding chemical. Pulls out even further into the vastness of space. It does a little spin around, seeing debris from everywhere, and then suddenly it's flickered away. And we're in an office. Out the window, giant, huge windows of this skyscraper, we see a yellow planet, dusty, the sun beginning to rise as it does so infrequently on this planet. Nobody stands at this window, but instead a man, dark hair, quite long, down towards like the middle of his back. It looks like there's a kink in it that looks like it's normally tied up, but it's out at the moment. He's sitting with his head in his hands, as he looks downwards at his desk. The camera pans to a computer screen, which just shows countless little pop-ups of news articles about the CEO of a company on Litlas and links to a pirate enterprise. We see within these news articles evidence of money being laundered through this business for the pirates. All of these things that incriminate what we come to learn as this man by the nameplate, Michael Hargreaves, on the desk. There's a buzz on the intercom for the phone as a video screen pops up and what looks to be a secretary, personal assistant of some kind. A man just says, sir, they're not going to stop calling, and there's just a crash as Michael slams this across the room. And as he does, it breaks, and he begins to notice a little beeping sound. He begins to look around, looks further, looks up at the ceiling, down under the desk, and sees flashing back at him a red light. As that red light blossoms, and in slow motion we see the beginning ignition of an explosion, as an entire floor of a skyscraper is obliterated by a bomb. But none of you can hear this in your nice house, far away from the city. The sun rising, I think one of you was looking out at a pool. I don't remember which one. It feels like a kid thing to do, to be looking out at a sunrise.
Hold out.
We see everybody kind of quite quickly claim rooms. They're all very similar. One of them has like better padding on the walls for like sound insulation. It might have at some point been used as like a home studio. I think a kid might claim that one pretty quickly. Nyx gets the last room because I think you have been focused on checking the car to make sure it runs. But we move
100%.
forward.
Like Nyx just ends up wherever.
Yeah.
In the shed.
Yeah, there's a shed outside. It's like a pool house, but it's just one room. But we move forward through time. We might flash back to your first reactions of the house at some point. As you're in the car, the five of you driving this trunk out to a pair of grandparents. The radio is playing some music that no matter what station you try and find, there's all this weird kind of variation on jazz because everyone's trying to get people to come in and like see the jazz festival. as you're driving, the sun is already setting, so it's maybe 2 hours after the sun rose. And you're just starting to leave the city. You hear coming over the radio news of another explosion in the center of the city has rocked people. Michael Hargreaves, a prominent businessman, has been slandered in the press, suggesting that he has an association with pirates. And, the news continues, largely suggesting that any implication between this man and the pirates is a complete fabrication. Who's allowed to be in charge of the radio while Lucia is driving?
He doesn't mind.
Oh, then Alejandro has changed the channel a couple of times in that thing, because he got shotgun, if I remember correctly.
I believe he
That
did.
is correct.
So it gets
Forcibly.
it gets
Yes.
to largely the end of that, and the person's like, these are fabrications, and they've gone to interview someone who's like, Michael Hargreaves was a pillar of the community, and it's just like, click. On another channel, it's like, Michael Hargreaves was an abomination, working for the pirates against us, the people of this great planet. He's like, click. And there's a jazz song, but it's a jazz song so bad that he clicks through that one. It's like, Michael Hargreaves was just a man prone to mistakes, just like anyone else. It's just like every gamut of apologizing for the pirate sympathizer, being like, but no one deserves to be blown up. Eventually the news, it's like on the hour, so news is happening everywhere. And about 5 minutes later of just clicking through, at no point does Alejandro let it linger for more than like 12 seconds on anything. Some jazz starts again, but this jazz has like a drum line at the bottom, and he's like, this is fine. This is fine.
You say this as if it's not like a thing that my boyfriend does whenever we drive anywhere. It's just scanning through radio stations.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I do that, but that's because I use Spotify. Well, Amazon now.
As the very long drive continues to become even longer, you could have a probably like a still shot of kid in the back, probably sitting up at least decently straight, and just as like a time lapse of the sun getting like higher and higher, they sink lower and lower in their seat
The time
until eventually.
The time lapse is even better because the sun's only up for 2 hours, so like the sinking is happening relatively quickly. That's very funny.
But eventually, kids' feet are like they usually end up being, resting on the back of whoever, the seat of whoever is driving, which is Lucira, I assume. And mainly just like from the shield that is the placement of their knees, you just hear a kid. I was getting real interested about this Michael Hargreaves guy. Sure don't want to change back.
Alejandro's like, Michael Hargreaves was a man named Michael. Just from everything you've picked up, he's just parroting that back as in a newscaster voice. You did notice that
You just do it. It's interesting.
you did notice that the sector of the city was listed, and it was one that you were warned previously to maybe stay away
Does this
from.
car?
Yes, does this
Does
car?
this car count as a like? Does this car count as a network point that Nyx can just easily access from the back seat with her slab?
The planetary-wide network extends to here. Like, you can just use that. It's a smart car, it does connect to the network, but you could do that from your smart slab without going through the vector of the car.
Well, I mean, specifically, what Nyx wants to do is just switch the radio back and hold it. Like, she just like looks up over at Kid, and then down at her slab.
Sure, yeah, you can just do that.
Yeah, that's what she intends.
I'm gonna roll a willpower check for Alejandro. Yeah, I think that's bad. My memory of his stats is that that's not good. He gives up real quick. Like, he's just like, click, oh, same channel, click, same channel, click, same channel. No, it's fine. I think there's something wrong with the radio.
Nyx just passes the slab like quietly back to Kidrin so that they can, choose exactly what station to just leave it on. And then yeah, she's with her other slab. She's like checking in on this because yeah, she did pick up that this was basically a death that they pretty much allowed to happen by not contacting any authorities. She's specifically looking to see if she's heard anything from their mysterious contact.
No. You have heard nothing from your mysterious white avatared person. Kid, you can put any station on. They're all playing jazz, but there's like synth jazz, and then retro synth jazz, and then electric jazz, and then retro electric jazz, and then futuristic synth jazz, and then fusion synth electric jazz, and then you're cycling back to the start again. But one is the 24-hour news channel.
Kids' form of entertainment in the drive is, after probably switching to the news channel every now and then to see if they're covering anything different, and probably not.
They are covering
Kid,
the jazz festival almost exclusively on the news channel.
Kid will begin to switch between different stations and will memorize which ones that they go to, and will attempt to piece together some weird jazz fusion like DJ setup.
Sure, you can make what have you got? Piano? You can make a piano check. It's harder because you only know piano, but meanwhile,
Nyx kind of like glances up in brief frustration because she had just gotten control of the channel changing habit, and so she's like slowly reaching her hand over, and then realizes what's happening, and kind of settles down. Her foot's bopping.
Meanwhile, Lucera, you all got some stuff for this. It's a 3-day journey. Did you have a plan for what you're going to do in terms of sleeping?
Sorry, you cut out there.
Do you have a plan for what you're going to do in terms of sleeping? As the music, gets really in the zone. It's almost like a Pitch Perfect riff-off where you're somehow matching to a channel that you're not on. The, upbeat, and then it's on a downbeat, and it's just I think Kid has to have a separate smart slab with the channel that you're moving to, and you're, actually DJing between two sounds that you can hear. To everybody else, it just feels seamless as it, flows through synth jazz, electro jazz, future electro jazz. Even the fusion synth electro jazz makes an appearance for just a beat drop. That's all that future synth electro jazz is. It's just beat drops all day. If you play a bar of music and then everything cuts out. Lucera.
This house that we have, isn't it 5-bedroom? 5-bed, 2-bath or something?
But you have to travel 3 days out to the town.
Oh, to get to it?
Yes. It's a 3-day journey there and then a 3-day journey back. There might be hotels, but I assume that you're prepared enough for if there aren't.
I thought the 3-day trip was to go to the job. Are you saying driving for the delivery part of this?
Yeah, you're driving to the
or
delivery
driving to a rental house?
No, you
gotcha. I thought you were saying to a rental house. I'm like, what? Okay.
I apologize.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I would probably picked up camping supplies essentially, a tent that if it could, I would have it try not encompass the vehicle, but attached to the back of the vehicle, kind of pop out.
Yeah, that's easy to get. As a leader, could you please tell me which of the people in your car you'd like to roll a d20 to decide if there's a hotel? It will be a hotel on an 11 and up.
3FL.
So 3FL wants it to be below an 11 because they want to go camping.
Yeah. That's why I did it. Cause I know that they want to go camping.
Yeah, Chamomile has their tent already prepped. They're excited.
Their hat extends into a tent. That'd be great.
Oh.
There you go.
I need to have the dice roller up on my phone so I can see it sooner.
It's a 9.
A 9? So you drive, you're driving, Lucera, you see, I'm going to use kilometers just to irritate all of you, but it's 25 kilometers to the Sleepy Bay bed and breakfast. You're like, great, fantastic. So you keep getting closer. It's like 20 kilometers, 10 kilometers. Next turn again. It's like a second sign, which is weird. You turn in, and it's just a burned out husk of a building. You've been driving at this point for an amount of time that you don't think legally you should be allowed to continue driving.
Well, they should update their signage for that. All right. I guess we're camping for the night. Sorry, everyone.
Tent, and I can help pick a very good spot that will be comfortable. I'm very excited.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and do that, 3FL. I can start unloading other things from the car.
Chamomile.
Chamomile, yes.
Alejandro says, I can help you if you like chamomile. And he like pulls from his duffel bag that has been like shoved under his seat. He also doesn't get it out of the car. He doesn't want everything out of there. But he pulls out this big like just bit of fabric, and like 2 poles, like that he could make a lean-to out of. He says, I've got this that I can contribute to the camp.
He says 2 sticks.
And a piece of fabric. It's very well prepared for Alejandro.
Perfect. I can add it to my piece of fabric and my 2 sticks.
Make some kind of.
You take the fabric. You just take the He just has devil sticks.
I wish Andrew was here for that because we did play a game where my character was obsessed with making a mega tent, so we'd just conglomerate everything. You don't have to make a roll. You just know how to find the best camping spot. I think it's a thing that you've done in your past, Chamomile. You can drive the car in and use it as like the center of the camp or the edge of the camp, Lucera, as you like. And together, Chamomile and Alejandro, you can make quite a nice camp. What does it look like, Chamomile?
Okay. So we first start with like the vehicle like keeps the trunk popped open because that's like a necessary like source of power for like any type like little generators that any of the organics might need to keep warm throughout the night. Or like if we have any hot plates for cooking, that's like easy access right there. Otherwise, Chamomile has like started setting up a series of like it's almost like a large bodega with open sides with all the sticks, and then a couple of different drapes of fabric down to allow for some separation between different people. And they have also taken like their own little corner, which is one of like the very open spots, and have started setting up like some of the belongings that they had brought with them. Fidget has like wrapped themselves around one of the sticks, and as it gets later, they'll also like help build a fire if anyone's interested in doing that as like a group fun time activity.
I mean, Fidget is Fidget the vine, or is this a creature? I forgot.
It's a vine.
It's the vine. Okay. Lucira will wait until other people have slept their sleeping arrangements before she claims the spot.
Alejandro reaches into his bag and like pulls out a little disc that he pushes the side of, and it like pops up into this big like Y shape that he drapes a hammock across. And then he like picks that spot, but he doesn't put it underneath the covering because like it's outside. He's happy to just sleep under the stars. It's gonna happen. He's gonna have to stab something.
Kid lays down like in their spot for literally probably about like 5 minutes before nope, and just sits back up, and you just hear the car door open and shut as they just lay across the back seat.
Nyx is just watching all of this happen with like this committed like rictus of a smile on her face. This is not her idea of a good time, but Chamomile is excited. So she's just like sitting there in the corner, like, and her fingers are drumming.
So Jack, you had previously described like the environment of the area we're in is like very like rocky, as in like big rocks, little rock. Like what? Give me that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's you can have picked an area that is very small rocks or a very big rock area. There are both, but mainly it's very big rocks.
How big is very big?
Like up to 3 times the size of your car.
Chamomile is also going to try to find it. We'll go and find like a chamomile sized rock, and we'll like start pushing it over, or trying to, because they got little scrawny arms, but not compared to the rest of the group.
Sure. Make
Do you mean a rock the size of chamomile, or a rock for chamomile to sit on?
Just a cool rock.
Yeah, make a kinematics roll. For rock pushing. Remember how this started with acid just wrecking an entire space sector? And now we're camping?
And I get to push rocks.
I mean... yeah, you can find a rock, and you go to push it.
So many ones tonight. Or today. It's not tonight. It's
you go to push it, and it begins to move. And there's something in the way that you push it where it begins to rock back, and the momentum as it comes back is far more significant than it was before. And you are in danger of being crushed. I need you to make me an escape roll. This is how you become Ryan Reynolds in that. Not Ryan Reynolds. Is it James Franco in that movie?
Yeah, James Franco.
James Franco.
You just rocked the vending machine in the middle of a wasteland.
Meanwhile, because you had to go a little bit of distance away, that's very funny. You had to go quite some distance away to also find a chamomile-sized rock. Everyone noticed you leave, like you didn't sneak out. But back at the camp, Alejandro's like, who cooks when Valis isn't here?
Lucira does her best. It's not great though.
All right,
yeah, whenever Alejandro asks about cooking, Kidron's head kind of like pops into view from the open back like trunk, like a disheveled gopher, and it's kind of...
Jesus. Yes.
Your choice of analogies is
Lucira,
spot on.
Can you please make a cooking roll, which is just a d20 plus your like raw int? Meanwhile,
my intelligence?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I need... It's a good choice to get Lucira to do it, because Lucira wasn't going to hear this anyway. Can the other two make perception checks? Alejandro doesn't hear it. He's providing unhelpful feedback.
15.
Yeah, every time you do something, Alejandro's like, I think you didn't do that for long enough. And I think you didn't do that for... you did that for too short a time. You don't know if he's right.
Shit, you have a plus 13 to deception?
Perception.
Or perception, not deception. Okay.
Jesus.
I was like, wow.
Which is good, because even from the car, just at the edge of your perception, you hear, what sound does chamomile make as a rock falls on... It doesn't fall quickly, but you can't get out in time, and it has pinned you underneath it. So you're not in immense pain, but you're trapped. I feel like you're...
Just a tiny yelp. Little baby yelp. And then they're just, like, wiggling, and it makes a bunch of clanging noises against the rock, but the only, like, vocalization they do is the...
Kid, you hear, just at the edge of your hearing, this little tiny yelp coming from a direction that you saw Chamomile walk in.
Kid... It's kind of like from their backseat, like hobbit hole, just kind of like scans the camp, sees absolutely no one else turn around to this sound. Just... it just opens the back door. We'll walk over to Alejandro. He's like giving unhelpful advice to Lucira.
You have to put more salt in that. you're making like a sweet dessert thing. It's like more salt.
Kid opens their mouth to say something, but does actually stop at whatever Lucira is making and kind of just makes like a confused look.
It looks fine. It looks like food, which
Okay.
like it's not bad. And Lucira, I don't think is listening to Alejandri, which is useful.
I put like I'm not listening, but like I put like the tiniest pinch of more salt in because I didn't have any in there yet.
Oh,
I'm
that's
making
what
it a little
salt
bit to
is?
balance it.
I didn't mean that. That was maybe a mistake. He looks up.
Hey,
and sees
spider
Kid.
yogurt. Pretty sure chamomile fell in a hole.
Oh shit.
Kid is gesturing, and Alejandri kind of looks over and says, well, it's like a rite of passage to get out of holes, right? But is already walking in that direction.
Yep. Kid will follow.
Please do it safely.
Kid, you follow the footprints.
Lucira shouts
Alejandri's
as you
walking
leave.
in a direction. Like, not following anything. So you're occasionally, like, reorientating it by following footprints. And you come across Chamomile, who is pinned, sort of trapped under a rock that is, has wedged their, like, bottom half underneath it. Alejandri says, getting out from that kind of rock is a rite of passage. We do that to the children in my race.
On purpose?
Not with parental
You just
supervision.
put kids under rocks.
Some kids deserve to be under rocks, he says, looking at Kid, while still going to move the rock. He feels good about socially
Yes, I'm a little
maneuvering
stuck.
that.
How?
He looks for a second, and a reasonable person would like. Let me double check his stats. A reasonable person with like an understanding of the universe would try and find a leverage point instead of just like trying to full lift this rock. But he doesn't really know what leverage is or how it works. So he just like bends at the knees, does the lift right, and starts to lift. As he begins to lift, Kid, you've got really good perception, so you see it. Chamomile, you're right there, so you see it. But through, like, he's probably wearing. For this, we'll say he's wearing shorts because, like, he's preparing to go to sleep. And you see that as the muscles bulge, far more than they should, because he has to like put a lot of effort into this. His skin cracks, and it ripples, and that ripple like gives way to crystal, as his whole calf, the back of his left calf, turns to crystal, as he lifts the rock off you, far enough for you to like pick it up.
Chamomile will like immediately scramble like out from under the divot. You can put that down, Alejandro.
He just unsafely drops it in a way that if Lucira even not there gets like a ping of occupational health and safety of like that was not the right way to do something. But he drops it and he steps back. As he steps back, you both notice that while his right foot steps back quickly, his left foot drags, and it takes him some time to get used to the extra weight that he's now carrying in that left foot.
I know this is part and parcel with who you are as a person, but utilizing muscles, I feel like, is a bit of an extreme way in which I have salves that might help with the muscle tearing and could potentially prevent that from happening, so your body doesn't have to heal itself into crystal every single time you use like physical exertion.
He like looks down at it and says, well, it's really gonna happen anyway. So maybe it's better to just get it over with, like ripping the stitches out, as we say.
So that's a normal thing that just happened.
Oh, he looks down and goes, Yeah, like you can see that there's bits of him that have crystallized already. It's like a very light blue, kind of the color of Maddie's headphones. The crystal that he's turning into is. And he kind of looks. Make me a leadership roll, Chamomile.
Okay. I have some sort of modifier in that. What is it?
You get another critical fail, and suddenly you're both under the rock.
Kid just leaves.
SWAT. It was a charisma check.
I did my best.
Valis comes to. All 5 of you are trapped under a rock. That's all that's happening.
17.
He says, but yeah, you can give me a salve if you have one.
How about we take some time once we're back at the house and we can sort of wrap it into our physicals that no one participates in.
Alejandra does come for physicals. Like, as
I'll say that she's
regularly
like. Does Camille say that looking at Kid?
Dead kid's eyes. Kid, I think Kid might be the only person that Chamomile has met that like fills them with like an intense sense of exasperation.
Kid is doing that trick that like you learn very quickly in public school, where like the teacher is talking, but you're not looking at their face. You're looking at like the pin on their collar, because it's easier to focus on that point instead of anywhere else.
Meanwhile, Alejandro gives you like a thumbs up, and like his fingernail falls off and just reveals crystal behind it. All right. Well, crisis averted. Why were you under a rock?
Because
That's a good question, actually.
Rocks are interesting, and I overestimated my ability to move them just a little bit.
That happens. That happens to the kids in my race.
Did the rock is the rock like back in the same divot that it was, or has it moved
No,
to a different
it's
point?
fallen the other way. But Alejandro kind of walks over and goes, "Well, I'll help you move it."
Chamomile side eyes the
We're
the rock.
still moving the rock.
No. Chamomile side eyes the rock and says, "Well, if that is something that you still want to do, then I will certainly not stop you. But if it's for my sake, I hate that rock now."
Okay. Well, I'd never cared about the rock, so.
But they will go to the divot where the rock had been resting previously, and we'll see if there are any interesting bugs that had taken residence.
There seems to be some kind of like spider web, but whatever spider calls that web home is not there currently. There are some dead bugs in the web, but they tend to be like little grubs and inchworms and stuff that have come up from beneath the ground under that rock and just like fallen directly into this web.
Is the web yogurt quality?
No.
Okay.
Another question about the environment here.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a bunch of big rocks. Does that mean that like you've sort of got some little baby caves that are happening?
You could certainly range further out than you have and potentially find a cave, or certainly like a hole between an outcropping of different big rocks that has become a small cave. But you don't know how far you'll have to go to find that.
Okay. Chamomile stores information in the back of their head.
Let's say, does Kid see Chamomile just scanning the horizon for stuff?
Yes.
Chamomile turns to Kid. I've not been in an environment like this before. Not strictly like this, and I know we have a job to do, but my instinct or programming or whatever it is that I run off of these days, I'm not entirely sure, has an itch to it, and I want to go exploring just a bit more. Maybe not right now, but
Okay, cool. Because I was about to say that I'm probably going to be going to sleep soon, and considering everyone else back at camp completely didn't even hear that Yelp thing you did, uh, if you go out too far and I'm asleep, that probably won't be too good if something happens. So, probably wait.
So you heard and got Alejandre, not the other way around.
I mean, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't get crushed under any more rocks, and it's even.
Well, that's an interesting way to view that exchange.
It's
Okay.
really cute how friendly
I will
you've
do my
become.
Mhm.
Alejandro says
Hmm?
out loud to both of you.
What?
I hear that. What?
Alejandro says, it's really cute how friendly you two have become.
Kid looks directly back at Alejandro. What?
You know, because you
Was
care
I
about
not
your
friendly
friend.
before?
No, you're friendly to everybody. But I'll go exploring with you.
When? When do you want to do that?
Whenever.
We're
We
working a job right now.
We could hike back to the city and let them finish the job. It's just delivering a trunk. They wouldn't be able to carry it, though.
That is true. Chamomile is conflicted.
Can Kidron, while this is happening, stealth back to the car?
Yes. Roll stealth.
Okay.
But Alejandro doesn't notice, but... he did crit. I'm gonna give him not a crit. But he did roll a 20.
With my +3 to stealth.
I'm gonna call that just the 19 that he naturally has for perception.
Oh, well.
Yeah, he doesn't notice.
Dirty 20.
You can roll perception, Chamomile.
Yeah.
He critically
I'm rolling
notices
real-
the rock that Chamomile was trapped under.
Well.
You are so far away by the time that Chamomile notices that Chamomile has to choose to go after you immediately or continue talking to Alejandro.
Chamomile notes that well, I guess the question is, does Chamomile get a read on why Kid was sneaking away from the conversation?
Why was Kid
I think-
sneaking away?
Surely there's a role for this.
Yeah, but I'm curious. You can roll deception, but I feel my instinct is you were sneaking away because Kid's no longer interested. And if that's the case, you don't need to make a deception roll.
Okay. Yeah, Kid was kind of just leaving and just like, oh, Alejandro volunteered to go with them. I've been absolved of any responsibility for anything anymore. So I'm going to use this opportunity to get away before this continues to suddenly shift focus to me.
Aw.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I think you know with your reliable understanding that that Kid's just like, well, I'm not part of this now, and thusly I cannot be here.
Chamomile will continue like talking to Alejandro. I think given the fact that Kid has lost interest and Kid is an important part of my life, maybe we hold off on exploring and rejoin the group. And then they scoop up some of the spider webs and like put it in there with the dead bugs and put it in like a little tiny jar for my own nefarious purposes that I will be sharing later.
Sure. I rolled a natural 1 on Alejandro's urge to point something out to you. You make it back to the camp. Lucera, you finished a very pleasant meal. An extremely competent meal.
Hey. Yay.
Everybody eats, begins to bed down for the night. Some in a car, some in a hammock, some in a tent. Nyx unable to sleep due to the anxiety of being outside. Actually, make me a fortitude check, Nix.
Yeah. All right.
Because I understand insomnia and how it impacts your ability to do anything.
That is fair. Nyx's problem is that there's too many things to pay attention to, and it's like not a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just like fully distracted by the sounds that are being made, and she gets interested in things, and then she gets horrified by things.
Sure. Makes perfect sense. I will say that it's not a good enough roll to mean that you can sleep, but it's not a bad enough roll to mean that you lose any condition. So you're just kind
Thank
of...
God, because I'm already at -2.
You're at -2?
Yeah, so that would mean that's a 15,
Do you
right?
remember why you're at -2? Is it from forever ago?
It might be from forever ago.
Everybody's condition should be 0 unless it happened on this planet. You traveled for 30 days to get here. Everything's fine now. All of your life.
Okay.
Well, you sleep badly when you're traveling. Anyway, okay, so that should be a 17 because you didn't factor in the condition minus yet. Is that right?
Well, if it's, I'm trying to figure out when this went on.
Yeah,
Trying to recall because I have.
You should have 0. Just put it at 0. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
In that case, night falls. Are you setting any watches or anything? Also, Kid Dart has like a sentry mode, basically.
Yeah, so above the car, like roof, is just Dart just hovering.
I think Lucia will probably want to we'll start out by taking a watch and then realize that Dart can just do that instead, and is probably better at it than her. So she'll be up for like an extra half hour after everyone goes to sleep. Realizes, don't actually need to do this, and we'll go to bed.
Mm-hmm. So, well, except for Nyx,
Yeah.
who is being distracted by a star constellation in the sky that reminds you of like childhood friends like face. That's weird. You doze. You're Nyx. You're in and out. You're getting a little bit of sleep, but you're waking up to like noises that are not as mechanical as you're used to. You're so used to the sound of mechanics that when you're hearing an organic like soundscape, it just wakes you up out of everything. Lucera, I need you to make me a perception check with advantage while you sleep.
Good. -1.
Nyx, you'll just hear this.
Hey, that's an 11.
Well, even with an 11, it's mainly that you're feeling a smart set slab vibrate against wherever you're keeping it. If it's on the floor next to you, you're
My
hearing
pocket.
that. And it's a familiar ringtone to we, the audience, because we heard it just before in your flashback, as the same ringtone that you got from Melba way back when. Nyx, you also hear a really soft hum of a vibration, and then a really short burst of sound before Lucera, like, just instinctively has, like, you just burst awake, and you're fully cognizant. That's such as that sound to you, Lucera, and you'll just interact with the smart slab. It seems to be not a call coming in, but instead a distress beacon on an encrypted line that you very rarely get messages on.
I will spend probably a couple of minutes confirming the authenticity of the signal, as it is not something I have had to deal with in a long time.
You run it through the requisite program that you have on your smart slab to do that. It comes back all green. There's no red flags of any kind on it. It looks like it is coming from an encrypted from a location that is capable of sending encrypted things on this line, which is unusual in this part of the world. Nix, what are you doing in the time that it takes Lucira to run this program on their smart slab?
Nick has like rolled over in that way of that you do when you've finally started to fall and then are woken up again, and she's just like, is Lucira visible? Like the tent, you said it was a little bit cordoned off, but can she see Lucira? Are they sleeping in the same?
She's probably
relatively?
sitting up because sitting up or like half laying down because rocky ground is not good for her back, so she kind of does a little sit up instead of fully laying flat out on the ground.
Yeah, so Nyx is just like laying there in like slightly fetal position with her head back, and you can definitely see, like, if you looked over or your perception wasn't terrible, maybe, the like the orange glow of her eyes reflected in the smart slab as she just like stares at you unabashedly.
Yeah, I do not notice you doing that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, everything seems to be authentic about this. It comes back through the authentication program as a distress message.
I'll play it, but play it so like play it with the privacy feature. Is there a way to like play it? Like, do I have earbuds or something?
Yeah, you all have headphones for the ability to listen to your private messages privately. What do your headphones?
I will
What do
do
Lucira's
it
headphones
privately,
look like?
and I will. It'll be in private mode, and it'll be the volume will be turned down very, very quietly, so no sound leaks out. She has a little, I'll say Bluetooth, but whatever the Bluetooth equivalent is, a set of Bluetooth earbuds that kind of are almost not noticeable, but they are uncharacteristically for her a shiny silver color. They just fit right into the ears, but
yeah, they're quite deep set into the ears as well. Like they're not
kind of like in-ear monitors almost.
Yeah, so they're hard to see. Although Nyx, you just watched them put something into their ears, so you don't really have to even make a check for that. You won't be able to hear what Lucira hears. As Lucira, you hear there's a fuck ton of static. So it takes a long time because you hear static, and then it starts to loop again, and your smart slab is processing the audio as you're kind of going through it, and eventually you get this is about going, please send help, Imperial Research Center 387, and then some static. It's like bandit attack, static, fire, patients, think pirates, and then it starts to loop again. And once the authentication program's completely finished going through everything and extrapolating the data to be completely unpacked, you get a timestamp of this started like the signal has been going out, but it only started like 20 minutes ago. And then it like pings you with the location of where it came from, which is probably you looked at the map for how to get to this place. I can't imagine any of the other characters were planning the navigation of this trip. So it's about...
Considering I have 2 ranks in astronavigation, I probably would have it in regular navigation.
Yeah, it's about maybe 160, 200 kilometers kind of to the west, to the east of where you are heading. So from where you are, it's 200 kilometers east, Jesus, and you're heading north, let's say. It will take you maybe 3 hours driving.
Okay. What is Lucira like? Like, does Lucira have a visible reaction to this? Because Nyx is just stalker staring right now.
Yeah. You see her kind of face mostly screwed up in concentration as she waits for the software for Smart Slab to decrypt this message, and then you see her like furiously like, pulling up a map of the area and like starting to like try to figure out like almost like she's planning a route to get to this place. So she's tapping away furiously with not panic on her face. She's very good at schooling her expression, but there's definitely some urgency to what she's doing.
Yeah. And if you want more information than that, you'll have to make an understanding check against Luceria's deception.
I already had that being typed out, so. And I have a rank in it these days. One whole rank.
One whole ranking. It's charisma based.
Okay.
My deception also charisma based.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, you get what Maddie said. Nothing else. You can't pick up anything about like any contents of it. But Luceria did go from asleep to fully awake and feverishly in planning mode.
You've cut out badly a little bit. Is that for everyone or just me?
Sorry, what?
You were cutting out a bit.
Sure. I just said that you got what Maddie said, but Luceria is clearly in like planning mode. Nobody else is awake, so.
Yeah, so Nyx just like kind of continues to watch in that like passive way. She's concerned that Luceria woke up too early, but also Luceria will say something if it's important. She kind of like doing that whole trying to doze fitfully again.
It's been about 6
Luc-
hours since you went to sleep, Lucera. Like, it's hard to tell because night goes
Okay.
forever here, but
Mm-hmm. And essentially, we just need like 2 more hours of sleep, and then we'd have like a full rest, right?
yes.
Otherwise, we'll lose condition.
Potentially. It's a roll based on 1 day if you lose condition.
Oh, right.
Sorry, I also said 3
Knowing-
hours. It's a 2-hour drive.
2-hour drive. Okay. Knowing herself, knowing who she is with, and knowing the contents of this distress signal, she is going to take 3 breaths and then will immediately wake everybody up and start packing things up and say, we need to go. There's something important we need to do right now. And we'll just go full on, like, we need to move ASAP. Go into battle mode.
Yeah, you all get, well, the 3 of you that are asleep get woken up by Lucera essentially just ordering everyone awake. In probably not quite an orderly way, but it is the tone of voice that is just like you snap to alertness. Kid, you're reminded of the strictest of people amongst the Red Riders, of which there are not many. Alejandri is like awakened with a sword in his hand until he realizes that it's not that kind of alert, and he puts it away. But he helps pack up the camp and everything. Chamomile, this is far more alien an experience to you. What is your first instinct?
Chamomile is quite capable of. They don't wake up slowly ever. They definitely go from like a I am shut down to an I am like awake as like needed and as they set like their sleeping timers to do. I think Chamomile briefly goes back to a moment before they were sentient, because that was just how they were operating constantly. But we'll just that passes quickly for them, and they help Alejandre break down the tent because most of this is their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Lucera, I need you to make me a leadership check just to see how quickly people like the amount of time that it takes everyone to get in the car and to pack up, because the packing up is difficult. Except for a kid who is in the car and ready to go right now. Also,
Yeah, kid has
everybody
to
else.
Make a
Sorry, a leadership check for you, Maddie.
Okay.
Everybody else, you'll finish your long rest in the car. You're only going to be awake for about 5 minutes, and then you can go back to dozing. Lucera will not get a long rest.
17.
yeah, it like Alejandria is good at packing stuff up and moving quickly. Kid and Nyx kind of didn't set anything up, and Chamomile is relatively organized anyway. So it takes you maybe 3 minutes before everything's packed up back into the trunk of the car on top of the footlocker that you're delivering to the grandparents. I will need you to make me a fortitude save, Lucera.
Got a -1 to that.
As
It's
soon as they're
not
packed up
hard.
and in the car,
Mhm.
as soon
Well,
as
I
they're
rolled a 7.
Nyx, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was not sure if anything was going through because my thing isn't lighting up. As soon as they're packed up and in the car, Nyx is like tucks herself like right up against Chamomile, despite the like metal edges. Like, yeah, they've got flannels on, they're soft, and just probably this is the first moment where she can like actually drop off to sleep. Like, cars moving, sounds are making, even though she's concerned about what's going on with Lucera, etc. She's tired.
Sure. Just to note, Chamomile has synthetic, like, human skin surface. Like, there are human-esque soft parts of Chamomile that are not just jutting out metal bits.
Yeah.
All
And
metal. All metal elbows.
Even if they did, chamomile is enveloped in layers and layers of love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nyx
Close.
didn't even like ask before using chamomile as like a full pillow.
All right.
Chamomile, when that like happens, chamomile has like the last of their blankets that they didn't like quite like get packed up, and will like wrap that around Nyx as well. So there's just like a bundle of gingham.
There's again, you're all like bleary-eyed. You're all dozing back to sleep, except for Lucera, who is very focused on driving. The car screams across this desert landscape. You are on like a traditional asphalt road, although you're hovering a couple of feet off it. Maybe an hour and 15 minutes pass of this journey as everyone starts to wake up naturally as the long rest kind of begins to end. We see the car screaming. You're going 100 kilometers an hour easily. You're going to make it quicker than you did. Speed limits don't really apply here, so you don't really feel like you're breaking even any laws to speed this much. But from the car, the camera stops and it pivots, and on the horizon we see the silhouettes of 4 figures sitting astride hover bikes as they begin to float slowly down an incline and pick up speed towards you. Back in the car, the camera dives back in the window where we see Kid still half asleep. Chamomile, eyes open, kind of cataloging the world around as it zooms past. Alejandri's playing with like the hilt of one of his swords as it lies in his lap. Lucera, eyes just so focused on the road ahead of you. And we zoom to Nyx, who's finally sleeping for the first time, and we go for a moment into Nyx's subconscious. A swirling void of nanites surround Nyx as she stands in a spotlight. And in that spotlight, you see ahead of you, down towards the road that everyone else is driving down, a spear arc into the sky of pure light as you hear a psionic scream, the likes of which you have never experienced since the moment that you had the nanites put into you the first time. And we're going to go to break.
Wow.
We'll be back in 12 minutes on the half hour. Don't go anywhere. Things are about to get far more
Jack, we're trying.
light speary.
Jack, we've been trying our hardest to just have like a slice of life episode, and you just keep throwing.
No slice of life
Keeps like
episode.
making this
You get
episode
trapped
relevant.
under rocks. You get told to put salt in things. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the Infinite, a world of psychic screams and encrypted messages and hoverbikes tearing towards you across a sandy planet. Nix, your eyes flash open. Kid, you're probably coming about to being awake. Can you make me a perception check with disadvantage? Because you're like a bit bleary-eyed. Camille, you can make it with advantage.
And if the scream was as like traumatic sounding as you described, I think Nyx wakes up and like her face is already wet, like with tears. Her eyes are very bright against like the like slight purple that happens underneath.
Your eyes look different, and I'll explain it after the
What?
perception checks.
Okay. Was that me who got advantage on that?
No, you make it normally, and Kid has disadvantage because of Kid.
Okay.
Kid wakes up slower than Camille. Okay. All right then.
My disadvantage was a 31. So
We're getting some like freaking Pathfinder numbers here. This is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Jesus.
Okay. You're why Maddie and I haven't been able to roll above a 2.
Yeah, it's been saved all for you.
Chamomile, you're kind of too close to Nyx, and Kid, you kind of see it in the rear view holo finder that is in the front of the car. That Nyx's face is she's covered in tears, and the eyes, they are flaring with this white pulse of energy for a moment. And then they go back to normal, where they're shiny and bright, and then they flare out with this pulse again. And it keeps going for 3 or 4 seconds, because at first you think, oh, I'm waking up, that's not real. And then you're like, maybe it's the sun, but it's definitely emanating from inside Nyx's eyes. This pulse of white. As you're looking at that, you are the first to hear the rev of unnecessarily loud hover bikes. These could be quieter, they're electric. They have like a built-in thing that is making them loud.
they have the baseball card and the spokes.
Yeah, yes, they have a baseball card in their spokes. They're not hover bikes so much as hover cycles that are electric. No, so these 4 hover bikes, and you like spin and you see out the back window that from either side of the road they are coming. And even though Lucira is going like 100 kilometers an hour, they are coming fast up on you. But nobody else hears it yet.
Kid, from where they have previously said, usually have their foot on the back of a seat or two, takes the free foot, takes one foot off Lucira's seat, puts it on the other seat, and in the motion of kind of spinning around to actually face out the back, uses that chance to kind of like kick both of the seats to make them look back at Kid, which happens to be looking back. And Kid is in the middle of trying to basically very claustrophobically and awkwardly try to get their rifle like aimed appropriately in this like sedan that we're in.
Lucira, make me a perception check with advantage.
Advantage? Okay.
Alejandro looks at Kid and is like, what is he doing?
Kid goes straight to road rage. These people have done nothing to us yet, and Kid has drawn a gun.
I mean, I haven't fired yet.
Kid can also see through the scope as it comes up that they are holding like weapons. And they look
It's a 10.
A 10? Alejandro and Lucira have an identical reaction of just getting their seat kicked, and they both turn around like parents on a trip. They're like, what are you doing? And they just see Kid facing in the wrong direction. But
if talking is a free action, Kid will turn back around and see the visible no reaction, and it's, what the fuck? They have guns. Turn around.
Yeah. You both immediately. Everybody sees out either side that there are 2 on either side of the thing. They hit. they come onto the road at a point where they're not kicking up sand. You can definitely take a shot at one of them before they hit the road, but then they're going to be about 100 feet back from the car. It's
Okay, so I can't.
disadvantage
So
because of the sand if you do take a shot first.
question: could I save the shot to activate an ability?
Yep.
I will do that.
Alright, so they hit the road. Your ability is going to go off first, provided you are within range at 100 feet. And then we're going to roll some initiative.
Yeah.
Which ability did you want to use?
Assassin's Patience.
Yeah, sure. That is active. They're 1, 2, 3, 4 from the top. Which one are you picking?
I'll say 1.
Sure. That makes sense. You're on the left side. All right, everybody, could you please roll me your quickness for initiative? Charlie, as I read them out, can you put them in the initiative channel so that all the players know where it goes?
Yep.
Thank you.
Where was my 18 or 19 there? Never mind. I'm
Can't
still
come up
better
every
than
time.
Probably got it. Yeah, good spread.
Alright,
And how fast are we? Like, you say 100 kilometers an hour? So, like, in terms of like.
For this fight, you are moving 6. There should be squares on this. Give me. I think the ruler still works. Basically, it's a straight road. So if you're going to go off road, we'll deal with it there. But I will just move them closer to you because they're going to gain on you every turn.
Okay.
So we won't really worry about moving stuff around.
Perfect.
Well, that's annoying. So I have to roll all of their initiatives.
Also, Jack, just a quick question. You said 100 feet was the range. I have the sniper rifles, like, range down as 300,
Yep.
and then 900 at disadvantage.
Yeah, that feels right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a sniper rifle. All right. That's that. Above 20 for initiative. No? Okay. I've got to write some stuff down. Charlie, I'll give you their initiatives for this so that you can all see when you're coming up. You can put number 3 as being at 23. And number 4 at 21. 15 to 19.
Me.
16.
19.
Alright, what's your dex modifier, Charlie?
2.
Alright, you can put yourself at 19. And then 1 at 19. What's your dex modifier, Lucera?
4. Oh no, dex modifier. Excuse me, that's not right. Dex modifier is 2.
You can pick between you and Alejandro. Who's going first?
I will go first since I'm driving.
Okay. Then... Kid, what did you get?
14.
Kid sees it all, and then gets their rifle stuck on the
Assassin's
seat.
Patience just takes a little bit of time. Like, Kid is
Okay.
ready to shoot, but is waiting for the moment. The opportune moment as it is. That's 16. That's 16, and then 14. Chamomile.
8.
Then Chamomile is at 8. And then finally, little old number 2 is at 5. They rolled very well for this moment in their lives. So, they move up. They're going about... Well, they're going a lot faster than you are, but in real game terms, they're going to basically take 3 turns to get up to the car. So, that one, They're speeding along, so they're not really thinking about shooting you yet. So you're not worried about that. But then, Nyx, you see these all bright green hover cycles coming towards you. On your side, they're coming really quickly. And as you look at them, behind your right eye, where you feel that swirl of power, you can actually feel within your eyeball itself the nanites swirl as they try to influence you to just let them go at that bike.
I think Nyx is disoriented from like that dream that she just had. And can I make her make a willpower save of whether she does like give in to them or not?
Sure, but it will be opposed.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright, I'm gonna not roll it here, because if I start moving screens around, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
They
I like
crit.
the idea of it being an opposed.
As all
Okay.
of opposed rolls happen against you, they crit.
Yeah.
So
So
make
I'm
a
gonna
roll,
do it anyway just to see what happens.
but
Hey.
I feel like my
But-
dice they just don't want you to win opposed rolls.
No, I mean this is
It's good.
it's good regardless. Yeah. So I think like Nyx is still reeling from the thing, and she's like distractedly wiping at her face, but it's not doing much good. And she like grabs this gingham blanket and is just like rubbing at her face and scowling at the motorcycles, and like almost to herself she mutters, "Hold on," and then just
All right.
Is it a failed roll in that they're going to act, or is it a failed roll in that which she needs to use a psionic ability?
What was your roll? Did you
18.
18. It would have been that you had the control, but they beat you by so much that you're gonna activate the one of like your leveled ability. So you're gonna lose a power point.
Okay.
And the one that is an offensive ability. Just read that out for me again.
Okay, so an offensive ability?
Yeah, you have two abilities, one of them's not offensive, so the other one.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so she is going...
You can describe
when
what
you said
happens as well.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering, since
Yeah.
you said read it out. So as like she's kind of like clutching onto chamomile, because she probably unharnessed herself so she could be comfortable sleeping. And like with one hand she's holding this gingham blanket, and the other she's kind of braced against chamomile. And she lets the blanket drop and just reaches across chamomile to slap the window. And as she slaps the window, the earlier illumination that Kid saw flashes through her eyes once more. And the target must succeed on a willpower skill check. If they're both in her line of sight, she's targeting the one that's closest. DC 20. If it fails, it'll fall prone.
Sure. So as you mutter to yourself, hold on, and then you slap the window, and in the head of the rider on... Well, we don't see much of their features as they are covered in armor. They're wearing like a big helmet. It's got spikes on it. But deep in their head, we see a child and its parent being like, hold on. And then this pulse of white energy, and it just obliterates everything this person was thinking of, and they take their hands off the bike itself, and they just tumble to the road. We don't necessarily see what happens to them, but they are no longer driving at 110 kilometers an hour at you. So that might be good. Maybe they're fine. Who knows? Nyx, you see that happen, and you see yourself in the role of a parent talking to a child, as if you're trying to save them from the nanites in that moment. In that moment, you're telling them to hold on because they're about to fall, but the nanites override you and they wash you away, imparting their will to protect you on that rider.
Nyx just kind of slumps a little. Her hand is still on the window, and she's breathing harshly. But in like the next second, she's like flashed her eyes up again, and she's watching still. But the sheen of tears has kind of redoubled as she just cries silently. There is no additional sound. There's no movement. It's just like that kind of leaky tears.
Sure. On the other side, kid, you're watching as your target edges ever closer. Lucira, they are gaining on you. Your car can't go faster than it's going without you really risking the passengers, particularly since you can now see that only Chamomile is buckled in the back seat.
Yeah. Then I will just go fast, and I will use my action to use my spend it in. Oh no, it doesn't have a cost. Do my direct order ability. And I will turn and look at Kidron and say, take them out. And so now you can now use an action. So you can spend a martial point and use an action.
Yeah. If you want to use a martial point, you can activate the shot that will be Assassin's Patience before your turn.
Sure.
And then you will lose, but you will lose one condition.
Yes, you will lose a condition.
Unfortunately.
Well then, kid won't.
You hear this order, and you feel like immediately like, oh yeah, I should shoot this person. And functionally, mechanically, how it works, because this hasn't come up before, Lucira can at any time use her action to give you any action. It's normally an attack, and it's Lucira's choice what you do. But it would be a completely free action outside of anything. It costs you just one condition and one resource.
Kidron will use a free talking action to kind of just turn around. Kind of what I was gonna do.
Kid's rebellious nature stops the order being effective. Alejandri is has unsheathed the sword. What's that really gonna do? But what else has he got? And says to Lucira, he's really very snarky.
Trying to help. It's fine. God. Okay. Does Kidron still lose the condition though? Since
no, it's like an option, because there are definitely times that a free action is worth losing one condition, but maybe at the start of the fight, no.
I must say, if it was an option that would made more sense, like 100%, Kidron would lose the condition to take the time to admonish the absurd request from Lucira.
Yeah, okay, you can lose a condition and not take the thing. That's fine. I'm happy for you to hurt yourself.
Cool.
No.
Cool.
No, actually, I think maybe as your turn comes around, you are distracted by admonishing Lucira, and now you have disadvantage on the attack. If that works with Assassin's Patience, which I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's an auto hit.
Oh, well, there you go. So what are you doing for your turn? You auto kill this guy?
Driver 1, after Kidron turns back around, and anyone that's near Kidron just hears them mutter, "What the fuck?" And it's like fires. Aiming for the head, it's an automatic 48 points of damage.
Sure. Did you say 48 or 4d8?
48.
Sure. It crashes into the helmet. We see, as the audience, blood begin to pour down across one eye, as effectively painting one face. But even though it was a headshot, 48 damage is not enough to kill that rider.
Cool. Still have my action. So kid just does kind of look on surprise, just like, okay. Reload, fire again.
Make an attack roll.
$18.
18 misses.
Okay.
They're so evasive on these bikes that even though blood is pouring down this guy's face, you just can't quickly get a beat on him. And we move down the order to Chamomile. Hello. Make me an understanding check, please.
Charisma or wisdom?
Your choice. I'm not particularly fussy in this instance. Wisdom, I think, makes more sense.
Well, I also have more in that, so...
Yeah, you would have got something different if it was the other one, but I think wisdom makes more sense.
Cool. That's a 30.
That's a 30? Was
Yeah.
that a critical? Your reaction makes me think it was a critical.
It was a critical.
This is my favorite critical that's been rolled the whole game. Because you hear, on a level that is not sensory, but on a level that is very mechanical, a swarm jittering under the skin of Nyx. You can hear their mechanical thoughts as they transmit this... It's speech, but in a very insectoid kind of way to each other. The nanites within Nyx are so flared up in trying to protect their host that all you can hear is that repeating over and over again to protect the host. To bring the light to the host. And as you feel that, I need you to make me a willpower save.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I'm gonna crit fail this one.
Part of me really wants you to, but 11 total. Yeah,
11,
so you feel it, and you feel as if it's like you're overhearing a conversation that you're not meant to be privy to, and you feel the swarm of whatever it is. We as the audience know that to be the nanites. Chamomile, not so much, but you feel them sever the connection that you had briefly with them. And as you look at Nyx's face covered in tears, you see the pulse in this right eye. But also, with no roll, you see their eyeball undulate as the nanites reach to the surface, as if they're trying to push further and further their grasp on Nyx. But that's the end of your turn, unless you have something very quick to do. You can talk.
I in that case, Chamomile will just grab Nyx's arm and like squeeze it gently and like pull the gingham blanket just a little bit tighter and whisper, "I'm so sorry."
Nyx, you feel that obviously, but you don't have an outward reaction because you're not in control right now.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Also, then finally, the final bike moves up. Fun time for that last bike guy who just saw one person fall off his bike and the other one get shot in the head. That guy's dead. I should make a note that, well, we don't know that he's dead. He could have lived. This one moves forward, taking that lane. As he moves forward, the rifle draws up, and he begins to take shots. The back... Are you firing out the window, kid?
Nah.
Alright. Then he saw the back blow out, and he takes a shot at you instead of at the car. Also, we'll have to discuss your insurance policy later, Lucero. Kid, what's your AC?
I want to say it's 18.
18 is not enough, so checking is potentially good.
19.
19 is also not enough. He pulls up this rifle and kind of just sprays it across the back. You've been shot at and probably shot with rifles before. There's something about this bullet as it like cuts into your shields and then I think past your shields with the damage that it does. Is you take 14 points of damage.
I forgot I needed to roll a d4 for my shields when the combat started.
Yes. Go ahead. In that case, it certainly penetrates them.
Okay, so 2 points of that goes through.
Yeah, so you feel the bullet, and it feels... You know quite a lot about weaponry. You're a sharpshooter. Bullets are like a thing that you know. It feels the most akin to like a hollow point that's designed to do a lot of damage to people. But your shield has softened most of the blow, so it's not particularly... Not the worst that has happened. Nyx, make a willpower save. They did not crit.
Nyx is like focused entirely on like the feeling of Chamomile trying to help her emotionally.
Yeah, have advantage from your
Aha!
friend. And because blankets are so effective.
Yeah, like it's a, No. The blanket is comforting. She just wants to huddle back into it.
You start to wrest control back. The nanites are still trying to flow outward, but now you can feel that they're trying to affect the bikes rather than the riders. They don't have enough control to activate your latent abilities, but they are trying to get you to control them to do something to the bikes.
Yeah, in that case, given that she like feels this like sudden give in this constant tug of war, she grits her teeth and is going to try to use her remote hacking on them. Sure. Can she do that? Does she do that through the interface of her lab, or does she do that through the interface of the nanites mentally?
It happens in your head. You have to
Yeah.
like Nyx has done this a couple of times before, but you have to type in your head on an imaginary keyboard. So there's like, we cut into your head where it's swirling with nanites. This is not what your head normally looks like. You don't dream of nanites. But you're sitting at a desk, the perfect desk with the perfect computer, with the perfect monitor set up, as the perfect version of yourself, no injuries, the best version of Nyx. And you're sitting down, and it's like watching a pianist sit and begin to start playing the piano as you start to type this hack of this bike. What would you like to do?
She wants to activate. So most vehicles have speed governance, and even if you've like rebuilt or built your own bike or adjusted, engines have speed governance, and so she's going to try to engage that.
Sure.
And just bring them to a slower pace.
Which one would you like to target?
The one that we haven't struck yet, the one that just fired a kid.
Okay, so just make a computer's roll. He's not counter-hacking you because he's riding a bike.
Yeah.
Because of his life choices.
And so as she's doing this, the Nyx in her head, cracks her knuckles and settles down to type. And Chamomile feels like her fingers are drumming against the side, just like a tiny twitch. It's not a full movement. It's almost intangible. Is it int or dex?
Oh, it's int.
Int or dex?
Int, sorry.
Okay. I almost added 810 to that.
That would be too much. You do not have an 810 modifier.
So yeah, 23.
Yeah, you watch out the back window. Not through your own eyes. I think you're still huddled up to Chamomile trying to take comfort in that. But I guess you kind of see through the visor on the helmet as it looks down at the digital speedometer where it was going 120, 122 kilometers an hour. And you just watch that number drop until it's locked at 100. So it's starting to still go down. The hack is continuing to slow it, but 100 is what these are built to speed govern at. So it's definitely not going to gain on the car, but it's still kind of staying there, and it will still be able to take some shots. But it will eventually fall off as well. This bike, also moves up, and you just shot him in the face, kid, so he's going to shoot you, hopefully, for him. I don't want to.
Surely he has disadvantage for all the blood in his face.
No, you'd think, but we get a flashback to him, like, just in a fight club, getting blood all over him. He's like, if anything, he enjoys it. He hits you. He rolled better than the first guy. Oh no, I dropped a die. I'll re-roll it, because it was a 12. One day I'll get this on my table. You take 8 points of damage. It was instead of 4.
Okay.
Yeah, so he again, they're not really aiming for you, they're just raking the back of the car itself. Lucira. They are gaining on you as you assumed they would, because they're faster. You've heard a couple of volleys crack across the back. One of the bikes is missing. You don't really know what happened to that one.
I'm going to assume someone took it out while I was driving.
It was nixed.
Yeah, it was nixed.
80 nixed.
Awful. What would you like to do?
Take psychic damage from that. No. Me personally. Seeing that the bikes are gaining on us, I think, and realizing just that being on a straight road and not varying how the car is moving is just making an easy target for these people on bikes. Lucira's gonna go ahead and start off-roading it.
Sure. We'll suggest that you're taking the dodge action for the car. I think is the best way to do that, because the car's a hover thing, it's just going to go across this, but you're driving more evasively, so everybody, the car will have, everybody will have a higher AC during this, so you can all have +3 to your AC to get hit, because I think disadvantage against all of you is weird. Alejandri looks out the window and, like, judges the distance that this car is, and he's like, it's not really gaining, and he's, like, pointing at it with a sword, and, like, trying to work out distance, but he's not willing to throw a sword that far. He's like, Lucia, do you have a pistol?
Here.
Alright, he'll
I'll
take
hand
a
him my
shot
pistol.
with a pistol. That might hit. Probably not. He's not great with pistols. No, he misses. It's not a bad shot, but it, like, aims at where the bike should be if it was going the speed of everything else. Kid. Your foe is close.
I see that. Probably a very startling image to the person. Blood in the face, has to kind of like shake it off a little bit to like see clearly. And in the motion of them doing that, kid disappears from view in the backseat for a second, as them with a rifle goes down, and then reappears not with a rifle, but with just a shotgun aimed directly at the guy.
Yeah. Make your attack roll.
Glad changing weapons is a free action. So silly.
Okay, that works.
He just sees the barrel of this big shotgun. That's really funny.
19.
19 does hit. Just.
Okay.
He, like, tries to take evasive action, which is to say he tries to just slide his bike under it and come back up, but the shotgun blast just catches him, and it just blows him back off the bike, and he skids in a streak of deep, deep purple blood. He didn't have purple blood before, but it's mixed with the dust of the yellow and the asphalt, and it's just streaked purple. That guy is full dead. Like, he's not coming back.
Kid will end the turn, knowing that there's another bike nearby, decently nearby, and will just scream out, "Fuck off!"
Make a leadership roll. with disadvantage, but I still want to see it.
I'm just gonna roll 2d20 because the modifier is 3. That's a 12.
Yeah, they don't. But they kind of look at the guy that can't speed up is like, maybe? And then the other one is like rushing forward. He has a chain in one hand as well, but still the rifle as he does not go next. Chamomile. Hello. It's your turn.
Chamomile looks between a kid who has actively like been injured at this point and Nyx, who has not been injured but is clearly in some form of distress. They make a snap judgment. Kid can probably handle themselves for another round, and will try to slap me in the wrist as needed. Reach out like mentally through that chain that they had just experienced the previous round.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Make a psionics roll.
Also, curious, what does Kid look like after like that shot? How well is Kid
You
taking
can't
all
really
this?
see what Kid looks like because Kid is draped over the back seat to like take shots.
Got
it. That's fine.
I know what my health is.
Question: what is the power base for psionics? Like, what is that mod?
I think it defaults to your best out of 2, and probably int is the best for you.
Okay. Does that mean that also qualifies for
Technician.
my iteration? Yeah.
Read iteration to me because I don't remember what it says.
Well, I guess I don't know if I failed the roll yet or not, but when you make an intelligence-based, so maybe resolve that first. When you make an intelligence-based skill check and you fail, you may remake the roll using charisma or wisdom to learn something from the nature of your failure.
Yeah. You fail and it was intelligence-based, so pick whichever you like of those two.
Okay.
It's a good ability.
Do wisdom.
As it fails, you do feel very similarly to when you're trying to reach out to Fidget. Like, it's a very similar attempt to connect with something, and you feel like you're just passing by where you need to be to connect. And then you will learn something else depending on this roll.
10.
That was charisma?
Wisdom.
Wisdom? Okay.
Yeah.
So your first, as you reach out, you start out reaching with the technological part of you, that like pre-sentience coding, where you're just like, well, I have a way of like essentially echolocating other things, other gardening droids to make sure we're not in the same area. That's what you're reaching out with. You are cognizant enough of the way in which you work that you realize that what you are missing is a different part of your makeup entirely. There is no mechanical element to the part of you that you are reaching out with right now. Psionics is purely mental, and it is only in your sentience that you have any ability to do anything psionic. No robot could do this. It's only because you have a self that allows you to have a psionic presence. But that psionic presence isn't enough yet.
Okay. Noted, and I'm gonna make some mechanics decisions once we close out this session.
Sure. The final bike rushes forward and will take a shot at Kid.
Is it able to catch up?
Not the full way, but like
Okay.
it's still one step away.
Okay.
That is a 12 to hit, which misses. It like just race across, but by now you're like, well, I'll just crouch, and you just duck down out of the way, and it just like shoots out the front window, and Lucira, you just see like a form that you filled out that was like windscreen damage, and you like ticked that box, and you're like, oh, I did tick windscreen damage. That's fine.
You just solemnly look back at Kid, who's been ducking behind a seat. He's like, "Oh, there's still some glass in this window left," and it's just kind of like
out, yeah.
The other bike, because they're now last and first in initiative order, brings up the rifle, and instead of shooting at Kid, just kind of sprays, hoping to hit everybody, and I need everybody to make an escape check in the backseat.
Am I at disadvantage because I'm still not in full control of my body, or are the nanites aware of it to make that check for me?
I'll make it for you.
Is everybody, or everybody in the back seat?
Backseat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here's one. You're gonna get hit next, so you will take this damage.
16.
16. 16 just succeeds. And an escape save for Chamomile.
It was 19.
19. Okay. You both take half. Nix, you take the full amount as this bullet-ridden back seat just takes another salvo. So Nix, you take 16 points of damage, and the other two take 8.
Okay.
I'll send it back. How's Nix looking?
Yeah. Nyx just hold on.
Nix is probably fine.
Yeah, she's fine, but she has been sent against the seat that she was behind, and is, bleeding significantly.
Chamomile, as this happens, you get hit a bit as well, but the overwhelming scent that you can suddenly smell is the iron blood of your friends. Like, you're getting sensory overload of just blood. Nyx, you too, but you have other stuff going on. And
is that shock, does that change anything about her level of bodily control, or is she just this mannequin?
Advantage on this willpower save?
I'm just wondering if she's a mannequin against the
You're
thing.
right. You can have advantage on this willpower save.
Yeah.
They were all pretty good.
I was actually just wondering if she was a mannequin as she got slung around.
They're as always, controlling a lot of the physicality that protects you at any moment. But make a willpower save with advantage.
Got it.
Double nat 20s, come on.
Make a willpower save to be less effective in combat, basically.
Yep.
Is what you're doing.
I know, it's yep. It's true.
The first one was
Well,
okay. No, you didn't make it. They had disadvantages. You didn't make it. You are so wrapped in this fight with the nanites that while you can't wrest control back, they don't have the power to overcome you or do anything either, and you are kind of locked in a stasis. As we move on to... Oh, that guy died. That guy is a lot dead. Lucira. Your evasive action seemed quite useful.
How close are they to us?
If you were to slam on the brakes right now, you could hit both of them. That is how close, but otherwise about 40 feet back in terms of real space.
If I slam on the brakes, that risks everyone in the vehicle, or I can just continue dodging.
Well, it's going to hit the footlocker first. That's the important thing. The job that
Correct.
you took, that's going to get hit.
Correct.
First.
Kid just using it as cover.
Yeah, knowing that they're still trying to deliver this fucking package, and the concern for the well-being of her friends, Lucira will just continue to dodge.
You can also, because you're just Oh, if you're dodging, that's different. But you could also instead just shoot out the window. I think you're competent enough that you could do that.
I gave Alejandro my gun.
He'll pass it back to you for your turn. Like, you can share a gun.
Sure. Can I dodge and shoot, or do I have to pick one?
You have to pick one.
Yeah, I will then just dodge.
Okay. Alejandro's like offering you the gun back as he thinks like, this guy's getting closer. I think I can throw this sword. He takes a shot. He doesn't throw the sword. He's not good with guns. He has a plus 6, and he hasn't rolled like anything. He takes another shot. That guy does start falling a little bit back as the speed limitation is like getting more and more pronounced. Kid, you're up. Sure. Make your attack roll.
And specifically at the one that's not slowly falling behind.
The closer one. Okay. I will always assume that the fighters make optimal strategic decisions if you don't tell me, because, like, you're fighters. If Chamomile was shooting at someone, I would not assume that.
19 again.
Yeah, it still hits. How good is your shotgun at this range? I feel like it's great, right?
It's 3d8.
Yeah, that's not bad. He just takes this full in the chest. Like, he doesn't realize that you're really shooting at him until it's too late.
17 points of damage.
It pierces his armor, and you can see like it flecking into what seems to be like a very bronze skin tone. But it doesn't seem to bother him really that much at all. Chamomile. The scent of blood, rich in your senses.
Chamomile again looks between Kid, looks between Nyx. My assumption is that Nyx looks worse off. Is that
make me a xenophysiology check?
Thank you.
It's very easy because you're doing this with xenophysiology, by the way. A perception check would also work, but it's much harder.
Dirty 20?
I haven't looked at the character sheets or anything, but I would say almost certainly Kid is doing worse than Nyx. Because Nyx has a lot of HP, and Kid has been shot many times.
Oh, that's right! Because Nyx is
because of the class that Nyx is. To be fair to Nyx, there's been a lot of psionic stuff happening.
Nyx is actually beefy.
If you want a number, Kidron has lost, counting temporary HP, has lost 30 hit points in this encounter.
You've lost 30?
Yep.
And you're still up.
Yep.
Chamomile makes this assessment, and while still trying to like remain close to Nyx, will turn to Kid, and will do a quick bop in of like one of their healing stems into their little palm stem administration. Words are hard. And we'll go, this is the second time we need to work on this, and we'll shoot the healing stem at them.
Where do you shoot it? Because my back is facing you.
Yeah, that's we'll do that.
Right in the butt.
You heal, I think it's 2d4 plus something, right?
I think it's 2d4, yeah.
Sure, it should be 2d4 plus 1, because they all heal 1, just for being administered. You just feel this, like, not pleasant level of syringe going into you. But after it administers it, you feel a bit better, and it, like, retracts away and, like, drops down into, like, probably Chamomile's waiting hand.
Kid 100%. It was just like, for a split second, how did I manage to get shot in the ass while I'm sitting in a car?
Back of the arm.
Okay, back of the arm. Okay.
There's like probably that's where you get shots, you know?
Alright, so you heal 7 points of damage. Do you have anything else to do, Chamomile?
Chamomile will then turn back to Nyx and will like bury their head like up against their shoulder.
As you turn back, you see the bullet holes that are like quite shallow anyway. But the bullets are kind of being pushed out as the skin is re-sewn together by the nanites. Next, this guy takes aim at Kid. Kid, you're feeling better, so this will probably not be a problem.
Yeah, bullet, it'll be fine.
15 to hit.
With the dodge +3, that's my AC's a 22.
Yeah, so it saw you dodging. It's like, I'm gonna go through the seat, and you just hear this like ting 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 as it hits this footlocker in the back of the car. The other guy is falling a bit further back, further again. He takes another shot. Now he can not really get an angle on Kid, but he can through the broken side window trying to hit Nyx. So we'll try and hit Nyx. Charlie, you're not going to believe this, but I rolled a natural 1.
Oh, nice. I was like, but I'll believe a crit. Like, that's exactly what...
Yeah, so he
failure.
lifts it up and he just starts shooting at you, and it just like clatters along the door. There's like each gunshot sounds like a cash register to Lucira's mind of like the money you're paying in the premium.
I win.
Next up, Nyx. It's you. Make a willpower save with advantage. They still have disadvantage. One day you'll do it.
One day.
They have not rolled below a 13 on this in 6 rolls. Like, on the die, a 13.
That's insane.
Well, be lucky that it's people that are technically helping you.
Yeah, it's like these are the best kind of willpower saves to fail. So 18.
18 was your top?
Yep.
18 is just not enough, sadly. Yeah, you try and wrest control back. In the, the piano hacking station, however, they do release your arms and you start typing away, and the hack that you had done, you send through a second one, and it, changes the decimal point in the speed limiter from 100 to 10, and this guy just, essentially does a stop on this exact spot and just is gone. Like, you're so far ahead the moment that he stops. Next up, Lucira. Oh, this guy actually got closer. I forgot. He's, up against this door now. You, look out your window. Right there. Oh, these are Australian-style cars. Driver's seat
Okay, I was
on the
going to
right.
ask, which side am I
Driver's seat is
driving
on
on?
the right.
All right. Lucira will she'll keep her right hand on the steering wheel, and we'll just pull the gun from Alejandro's grasp and just, in one smooth motion, just turn it and shoot at him.
Sure, make an attack roll.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good thing that Lucira is driving,
Aw.
because if anybody else is driving, we would be using this car as an actual weapon. Except for Chamomile, but you know.
It's only
It misses. It's hard because he's still going slightly faster than you, and it's difficult to gauge the speed, and you are focusing on not crashing. So you pull the pistol out, and at the same time, you feel the car kind of shift to the side as Alejandro just levers himself out the window. There's a scrape of crystal on metal as his leg is heavier than he thinks it's gonna be, but you see him essentially slide over the roof and just try and stab downward with his sword now that someone is finally within sword range. Well, that's a 12 plus what I can only imagine is a lot. Yeah, that's a 23. You see the sword slice down into the shoulder of this guy, and he kind of tries to lever it so that he falls off his bike, but it just comes out in a spray of blood. Kid, you're up. This is a extremely easy shot now, because you can literally just lean out the window and shoot. So
yeah.
You can make your roll with advantage.
Okay. It's a 21.
Definitely hits.
Ironically.
Make your attack roll on the final one. These shotguns are real good. I didn't think about shotguns to defeat motorbikes.
13.
13. You hit it again in the back, and it breaks through the back of the armor, but he is still holding on. He might just leave. He might be like, no, actually, you're right, I should have fucked off. No, he's in this for the long haul. He's going to take down all of you. Chamomile.
We found the bandit hoverbike rider version of Alice just staring down pirate ships.
Chamomile, you're up.
I think that Chamomile is going to once again hit a kid with another healing stem.
Sure. 2d4 plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
Kid isn't exactly the fan of these surprise needles that just keep coming out of nowhere.
You're like the worst kind of acupuncturist, where you're just like, oh, I think you need acupuncture. Bonk.
This is a high situation in which Chamomile has no idea what
These
to do.
are also the best things that you could be getting shot with from Chamomile. A lot of them have bad repercussions.
There's just a quick flash in like kid's mind, just where suddenly they're like 4 again, and Anith is just like, all right, we're gonna get this one for this random disease, this one for this one, this one for this one, this one for this one, and kid is just staring blankly at like a doctor's office wall.
That's another 5.
Yeah, so you gain another 5 points as the man on the bike looks up at Alejandri and levels the rifle, and just from point blank range will try and shoot Alejandri off the roof.
No!
Well, that's a critical fail, but he does have advantage.
Oh!
That probably hits. Alejandri's probably fine. I mean, he'll just shatter into some crystals that you can sell for money anyway. He does get shot, but it doesn't even look that bad. You just hear like the plinking of bullets into what seems to be like hard glass.
Feel bad about shooting him all that time ago.
Sure. You'll be the first person ever that felt bad about shooting Alejandri. Like, Nyx. Make a willpower save with advantage.
Is there a reason it's still at advantage? Because I thought Chamomile wasn't able to use any action supporting it this time.
In general, you've just gotten so much further in control.
Okay.
You're essentially winning the battle because you are the host and they are the nanites.
Okay, that's fair. It doesn't,
Chamomile also is very much pressed right up against Nyx.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah, you're like having a nice intimate cuddle in the back seat while bullets are flying. Also, they did roll a critical fail on this one, so it would have been hard for you to not succeed. But you feel
double crit fails.
You feel fully your body back in your control, and then you again feel how heavy and broken your body is just from like the ravages of your injuries. But you can do what you like.
In proximity to the door, what does the tail end of this motorcycle look like?
It's hard to see because Kid is on that side, but it looks like the tail end of a motorcycle that is like just slightly ahead of the door. I don't understand what you're asking for.
Nyx is just like looking at that angle and wondering what would happen if she doored the back tire abruptly.
Make a applied engineering check.
You kick Kid out the car at high speeds to fall into the bike.
Hey, you just leverage Kid, right? Let's see, and I'm assuming that one's at int.
Yes.
Yeah. So
this could have been a theoretical science one, I guess, but.
But it's a crit fail anyway, so it's a 13.
So it's certainly going to knock that bike off, and probably nothing else bad.
Oh my god. Oh.
Charlie, you see the button.
The
I do
button's
see the
such
button.
a good idea. Like, the bike will be done. They'll probably go
It
into
will-
the sand. It probably won't even hurt that dude. That much.
Yeah, it'll be it'll be done. Can Nyx like glance at Kid as she's like, does even with that crit fail, does she have like enough sense in this moment to glance at Kid and make an understanding check of like whether they're in a position or not that they're gonna fall out, or in applied engineering for like
I
how they're
think-
positioned?
I think that I will tell you, no, not lying, that Kid will absolutely not fall out. Kid is in the car. Like, if you open the door, Kid will be like, oh, the door's being opened. I guess I'll be in the car fully. Kid's not going to be blindsided with plus 13 perception that you're moving to open the door.
Okay. And then my final question is, how fancy are these levers? Like, is it in a position, a shape that it can be kicked open, or does it have to like be articulated, hand
That's a button.
underneath? It's a button?
Whatever
Okay,
you
yeah.
whatever you like, really, but it is a button that you could push with your foot.
Oh yeah. So in that case, Nyx just like kind of like rolls slightly over, looks past Kid, and then just stretches out her entire, all of 5 feet of her, just barely long enough to like hit that button with her foot. Slam the door open, intending to hit the bike.
So, a few things happen. Firstly,
Sorry, Lucira.
I decide that these cars don't have suicide doors because that would be a funny thing, but they don't. The door opens. Kid, you watch it. Your honed instincts, you see it almost in slow motion as the tire hits this door, and there's just a moment of like the torque of this tire going at, again, about 105 now down this freeway. It like rolls up the door. You hear the metal buckling, and you feel the entire car start to shake. At the same time, I need to make a roll. That bike like flips and is gone. The guy does fall in the sand, and he might be alive. You all hear the shearing of metal as a sword tip plunges through the middle of the car, but shears out, and you just watch as Alejandro just drops off the back of the car, impacting the road and just like bouncing a couple of times. As you do, Chamomile and Kid, who have the high perception, you hear the impact of crystal against the road. I'm gonna delete this bike because that guy's not.
Thanks for that. Oh.
You critically failed the worst things, by the way.
Well, yeah, like it's one of those things where like I know, but Nyx has been locked in a fucking
I like it.
nanite,
I think it's
like
great.
a nanite thing for that whole time. She has no idea what's going on. So that was like,
I'm gonna move us away
the
from
worst
the map
thing.
for a second because I also need to go to a different thing so I can check an HP total. But yes,
Nyx is just
Lucira, you
Nyx,
also know
like,
that happened. Like you
started to
you see in the
scream.
rear.
Nyx started to scream at such a high piercing volume that her voice just like almost immediately cracked. And it's just like her mouth is still moving, but she's not making any sound. And she's like trying to scramble
actually,
instinctively past Kid to get to that door.
After the first bounce, you feel in your head the nanites trying to take over again.
Nyx, for the first time, is going to just immediately, the second that happens, and as she's screaming, her eyes flashed white because she did not fight it at all. She's just screaming at them now, help him.
As that happens, Lucira, are you going to stop?
Yeah,
As that happens,
safely.
you all turn, and Kid, you see it because Nyx is wreathed in white, and this white strand reaches all the way from Nyx to Alejandro, who is floating in the air, not having impacted a second time. Based on the roll from the first impact, the second one would have full killed him, but you see that his clothes are shredded, and on the left side of his body, the entire left of his body is now crystallized. And you see his skin is starting to fall from the other places. Like this trauma has forced the next stage of what Alejandro was always destined to become. And despite the fact that we have 20 minutes to go, I feel like that might be a good place to end. So
It is not. It is
No?
not a good place
not a
to
good
end,
place.
sir.
Not a good place for you to think about for a week.
No.
No, we'll keep going then. That's fine, I suppose. But yeah, you will see Nyx holding Alejandro up. His eyes are open, and more cognizant than you perhaps think they should be. But you don't know whether that's because of the white light that is keeping him up.
Combat then?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
I'll say, did the other driver just, like, fuck off?
Oh no, he got like full flipped and like head first into sand, and if he is alive, he's going to be in a coma and then not recover. Like,
Gotcha.
So do we all see this white light that's going from Nyx to
yes,
Alejandro?
you can see that there is a bright white connection between Nyx and Alejandro that is holding Alejandro up off the ground.
Nyx, what are you doing?
I don't think Nyx can reply, can she?
Yeah, you're in complete control. You reached out with your mind, and you picked Alejandro up from midair. The moment that you let the nanites in, you realized that you were the one that was in control of it.
Okay. So yeah, then in that case, Nyx doesn't reply. She's just pulling on Chamomile, and because we've stopped the car, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's the distance between the car and Alejandro?
130 meters by the time that Lucira stops. The brakes aren't great.
Yeah, so like as Nyx is like pulling Chamomile out of the car and not responding to Lucira at all, she is trying to pull on that to bring Alejandro closer, but like it's a tentative pull and she's more focused on like getting Chamomile over there.
Sure, make
But
it.
yeah, Chamomile has like the moment the car was like stopping, was attempting to like, because I think Chamomile was technically sitting in the middle, was like trying to scramble over like Nyx in a terrible bundle of blankets to get out of the car to get to Alejandro as well.
What's your intelligence modifier for Nyx?
Intelligence modifier is 4.
Make me a d20 roll plus 10.
Okay. Nope. 12. Oof.
You start trying to pull it across, and you're like, well, I'm just using my mind, but there's still an element of you having to use strength of some kind. And you just don't have the knowledge of how to use this new type of strength. So as he's moving towards you just very slowly. And he's starting to like look around with just his eyes at like what is happening as he's floating. And you hear a voice kind of come out of the bubble that is around Nyx, as if it's transferring the sound that he makes. And he says, am I a god? Is that a thing?
Nothing that works like that, Alejandro.
Nyx just like stumbles from this like load of blankets and is like laughing, but it's very hysterical laughter. As she kind of like staggers after Chamomile.
You all reach. Is Kid also heading over?
I was going to say, a lot of weird stuff has been happening, and Kid's not exactly a doctor of any kind, and has kind of just recently been like, oh, this crystal thing is a thing. That looks real bad. But Chamomile's already headed that way. Kind of refocuses more on something else, as Kid will... Actually, in a similar way, a very long time ago, is there any type of check Kid can make about what is Nyx?
Sure, yeah, you can make a psionics.
Okay. Okay.
As always,
seen-
you can just make a
We've
save.
seen weird shit. There are empowered people around. We've seen empowered.
Not many.
Uh,
I've never seen an empowered person in this game.
Yeah.
we saw like one,
I don't think
and they were
there
trying to
are.
kill us.
Yeah, and they made a bone spike out of their arm and threw it at a wall.
Yeah.
18.
So you have heard of people that wield like universal forces as more like you would wield a gun, that have better access to it. It's not particularly common in the sectors from around where you're from, but that you have also heard there's like an imperial like wizarding school where they learn magic that way. Like they learn from old books that teach them magic, and you've always thought that's kind of just made up. But you're certainly aware that psionics exist and that there are people that can use their mind to affect the real world. You didn't think like this.
Kid is mildly afraid, but will make a decision. One, because again, doesn't really think they can do much in a situation. We'll probably pretty briskly move past Nyx, and we'll go down the road. As I think we stopped pretty quickly, is it reasonable for Kid to make it to the guy in the sand?
Yeah, do you want to run as fast as you can to get there, or just meander? I can't imagine Kid running, it feels weird.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna meander.
Okay, you make it to the guy in the sand around the same time everybody makes it to Alejandro. The guy in the sand is, I mean, as alive as you can be with that kind of head trauma. I don't think alive is a kind thing to call him, but he is still breathing. We do, as everybody's walking down the road, get a flash to the person that fell off their bike first, kind of standing up. They've got like a broken leg, but they are alive. So that guy did make it. Just so, if everyone's worried about that man, he did make it. Alejandro's floating in a bubble, wreathed in white, skin cracking as if paper off his skin. Skin cracking as if paper off his crystal form. And he kind of looks down and says, "Fear not, I am a merciful god. Can I get down?"
Is he within like how high above the ground is the bubble?
Very, very low, like 1.5 feet. Like Nyx caught Alejandro at the last possible moment before hitting the ground again.
So can Chamomile reach their like hand into the bubble like to try and like grab him?
Yeah,
or
you
touch
can.
him?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nyx isn't trying to stop.
You do that. It feels like you are reaching into something, but again, you don't have like the understanding to connect what that is. But you reach out to touch him, and you sense that he's trying to reach his hand towards you, but he did just fall off a car at an extremely high speed, and you think that maybe he doesn't have the ability to move most of his body. But as you touch
Luciera
him,
will help.
as you touch him, you could pull him out of the bubble.
Can I step into the bubble?
You can certainly attempt to do that. That is a thing that you could try.
I shall try.
Make a willpower save.
Great. We're having a great time today.
What have I done by dragging you all into this distress signal?
This
And, like, Nyx
this
would
was
totally
not
have
what I was
set them
talking
down,
about when I
but-
messaged you this morning, Maddie. Just so you know. What
I
is
figured.
What's Nyx's response to Chamomile trying to step into the bubble?
I think Nyx is a little in shock. And so she's like watching. And she will, if she has the chance to, try to like she's like looking at the ground and trying to like decide if she can set Alejandro down without like hurting him more. But she knows like she used to work for a hospital. She doesn't know a whole lot about xenophysiology, but I think she knows that you don't drop people or move people who've had spinal trauma. So she doesn't let go. She
Sure.
holds onto that bubble.
As as you think about putting him down, he is placed onto his feet, and you step into the bubble, and you feel yourself encased, and you feel a... What emotion does Nyx feel for Alejandri?
Right, like Alejandri in this moment, or like in general?
In general.
She has this like, so like the feeling that Chamomile presumably is picking up is like a mix of awe and hope and tenderness. It's not exceptionally strong, but there's like a very quiet like affection there, kind of one that somebody gets for somebody who is like paid attention, right? Like that's the emotion, is like, oh, he pays attention.
So you feel that. You know that Nyx is the source of it because it has a slightly frantic energy that only really resonates with Nyx. But you feel the affection that Nyx has for Alejandri in that way. As Nyx, you feel the force that you're using cannot sustain two people in the bubble. It's like you're not strong enough to do that. As it dissipates, and Camille, you feel Alejandri forced to stand on his broken body, slump towards you a little bit, but not as much as you'd expect as a doctor of somebody that should have all their bones broken. And he murmurs into your ear space, whatever is an ear for you. I think you have an ear, but like he murmurs to you and says, "I don't think the salve will help." As he like cracks, and you feel there's no joints left in that half of his body anymore. That's not how he works anymore. And you feel him trying to crack his bones into place and his crystals into place. And he looks down, and every single bit looks like that purposely shattered artistic glass. Whereas you know of Rethans that they are meant to be immaculate crystal specimens. No Rethan has ever looked like this, because no Rethan has ever crystallized under this shattering trauma. But as he looks down, he says, "Kind of looks cool." And he clenches his fist so slowly, and you watch as the crystals break into place and they shatter into his fingers, and he slowly flexes his hand.
Yes, I think you're right. So Chamomile's going to start talking in that way that you do when you're trying to keep someone conscious, right? I agree the salve won't help. That was simply something that I had when I had friends of mine who were very athletic, and they said that helped with muscle soreness, and this is very clearly a bit past muscle soreness. Could you tell me about your family again?
I'll make a save for him, I guess. He starts to talk to you a little bit. He's struggling to speak because also his organs turn to crystal. Like, his whole body is turning to crystal. A fact that Chamomile knows happens, but it's not meant to really happen this quickly. But he continues to be pretty cognizant. He tells you a story about he's looking at Kid over Camomile's shoulder. One of his eyes looks like a normal human eye, and the other one is a ball of crystal. But he tells you a story about how his younger brother was trapped under a rock for like 4 days. And then like he tells this long story, and then at the end it's fine because the rock was like a roof, but you didn't understand that, and it's your fault, and he's making a joke about that. But he is cognizant enough to be alert and awake, and you think back to what you know of Rethans. There's not a lot that you know about it, but you rolled very well that one time. And you can't really do a lot to break them once they become crystal, because it's one of the hardest substances in the world. Like, this is the hard part of it. Like, it's a transformation that will hurt. and he is clearly in pain, but the pain is about 50 parts slamming into a road, and like it's 50% slamming into a road and 50% also all of my organic tissues turning into crystal.
Glad you did not leave me under a rock for 4 days. That's an interesting parallel in your life right now. If I hit him with
My fist.
my fist. I have I don't have anything for this. Oh no. Chamomile is going to go about, like, in recognizing that this is not what the problem actually is. Like, they pull out, like, the sticks that they had used for setting up the campsite and, like, start trying to, like, use that to make a different, like, when you're setting bones. So at the very least, like, as things are crystallizing, they at least set in a way that's not going to be to alleviate pain.
Sure.
Make a
Maybe a
splint.
xenophysiology check.
Nyx finally, like, that, like, hysterical laughter at Alejandri's commentary kind of fades, and she, like, pulls up to Chamomile and looks at what Chamomile's doing and is going to try to help from an applied engineering perspective, right? Like, of where, like, how you can make splints to balance it out while Chamomile thinks through the biology of it.
Sure. What was your role for xenophysiology?
28.
Pretty good. You can put all the splints that you want on this, but it's not going to stop the pain, because the pain's not... It's like an internal thing, like your bones shifting to be made of a different material. But it's also... I think you know Alejandri well enough that you don't even need to make a roll, that it's a pain that Rethans have prepared their whole life for. If it is true that as a child you are trapped under a rock, it's to make sure that you understand what it's like to not be able to move. So if in the moment you need to move, it doesn't surprise you. Because the reason he can't move now is not because of the pain. It's because his joints don't work the way they used to. And he's heavy in a way that he never used to be. And as you're fussing over him in a way that he can't really move to stop you, but he seems put out by it, he, like, reaches down and picks up the bent and broken sword that he was carrying and, like, looks at it and discards it and takes off his other two swords that are fine because their sheaths are very good. And he, like, offers one to Lucira and one to Kid, like, at the same time.
What do you want?
Well, I can't use these anymore because, you know, they're like a fast thing. He gestures to himself in an agonizingly slow sweep over his body about the fact that he's clearly not fast anymore.
Lucira will nod solemnly, and will take the sword and clip it at her side.
I'll say, how close is the dude that Kidron went over to all this?
Quite close, like maybe within 15 feet, but if you haven't come over, you don't get a sword.
Okay, I just come over.
Yeah, you get a sword. He kind of... Alejandro looks at you and says, don't we have somewhere to go? Like, this will take a while. I'm not going to be useful, but I could be sitting.
Do you want to come with, or do you want to get a little camp hideout over here on the road?
I'll come with. And he, like... Camille, he's been leaning on you this whole time, and he straightens up. He doesn't feel taller because he hasn't changed in that way, but he, like, goes... He looks at you, and with one hand just, like, picks you up to be eye level. A strength that he never had before. And he, like, smiles And as he smiles, his whole mouth is crystal now, and he says, well, you have to learn a different type of doctoring, because syringes don't work on this. And then he puts you down. And he slowly starts to walk to the car.
Geology is fascinating, and we are still going to go exploring out in the rocky...
Not technically a rock, but yes, you're right. Geology is very interesting. He's walking very slowly because he's carrying about 5 times the weight that he used to be carrying. But as you all sit back in the car, he reaches...
I was going to...
Sorry, go ahead.
Just in a quick assessment of the car.
Yes, kid first, and then we'll do the insurance thing.
Okay.
On the guy that got just ostrich head planted into the dirt.
Yep, definitely alive, man.
Yep. Is there any form of like salvageable smart slab or anything on him?
There's no smart slab that's salvageable. There was one. It is no good. It has been shredded a lot. He does have on him like a piece of paper. You think it's paper? It's actually leather that it's been written on, and it is a location that, according to your brief studying of maps when you were looking at places in here for to rent, it kind of seems like it is where this road leads to, and it's like a contract that has been signed to set fire to a facility.
Is there any type of like distinguishing clothing that was noticeable on these people?
No, they're wearing very like Mad Max Raider style or Fallout Raider style outfits, which is unique, but not unique to anything that you can like piece together.
Before Kid heads back to the car, Kid kind of like, from still being kind of hurt, has kind of just been using the shotgun they haven't let go of as like a way to kind of like poke and prod the guy around, and has that like snap reflex of just kind of like hurt anger whenever they use the shotgun to kind of tilt his head up, and keeps it there for a minute, but kind of just breathes, and afterwards kind of puts up the shotgun and just leaves him there.
All right, Lucera, hello. The back windshield is broken. That is in pieces. The left rear window is also shattered. The front window is shattered. The trunk has a lot of bullet holes. The footlocker is surprisingly fine. The left rear door has a lot of bullet holes. There is a sword gash down the entire top of the car. And some of the seats, the upholstery has damage. I assume...
We still have all the cars. Or not all the cars. All the doors are still...
Yep.
On the vehicle. Okay.
Yeah, and also one of the doors has been absolutely smashed in and will need a lot of bodywork, but it will close.
Okay.
I assume that you took out the most comprehensive insurance policy.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't
Since
expect
we were told
this to happen, but they will pay for it, and you don't have to worry about that out of the cost.
Well, and since we were told when
Yeah.
we came in, we're like, this is a pirate space.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
was like, I will pay that premium
Like,
to have
you
the
pay the
best
premium.
insurance. Yeah.
Great.
But it's still drivable, not leaking gas. We're good to go.
Alejandro sits in the front seat again, even though it took him longer to get there than anyone else. He assumes nobody stole his seat. Reaches down into his duffel bag and pulls out. Lucera, maybe you saw this at some point when you were traveling around shopping when he was carrying it. But he pulls out this big. It's like a triangle, but it's got leather. It's wrapped in leather, and it's really artistically designed. And he pulls a drawstring, and the leather unfurls around it, and it's an enormous blade of a spear. And he takes out his 2 tent poles and he connects it to them, and then he just hangs his arm out the window with his now more appropriate strength-based weapon. We watch the car drive off. As you drive towards your destination, Lucera, there's a somewhat somber tone. Everybody's also quite tired
I have a question.
Yes.
As we're driving away, that psionic scream that woke Nyx,
Mm-hmm.
was that only in dream space? Did it ever peter out? Is it still going?
Do you want to reach out?
I don't want to interrupt your ending narrative, but Nyx is absolutely doing that.
Sure. I was going to do something where you were more passive about it, but yeah, you can reach out instead. That's fine.
Yeah.
You reach out forward, and we see what is the mythical version of Nyx. If you were like the most heroic version of Nyx that you could think of, what does that look like?
It doesn't look much different. Nyx
What
is
a
a few inches taller. She has on a jumpsuit, and it's almost exactly the same jumpsuit as the one she's wearing, but where she's wearing like a modified old academy jumpsuit, like the base layer is there, and somebody who's been to the academy can recognize that she literally took the suit that she'd had to wear as a uniform for years and just like retooled that. This one is a lot worse for the wear. It's something that's been repaired meticulously a dozen times or more. And her features are a little bit finer, a little bit more like elegant looking. And she looks like the chief.
As the car drives, we spin to see it side on from the city, and we watch Alejandri's arm out the window with the spear, Lucira focusing on what has happened now, just moments ago, and what is still to come. Kid, probably listening to music at this point, because the jazz is probably getting problematic.
Important question.
Yes.
I say important, but also slightly minor. How much did Lucira tell us about what was happening before she just gunned it and then just kept driving?
Absolutely nothing, and this is the first time you've been like fully cognizant and awake since that really happened. But we'll come to that at the start of the next session, I think.
Then Kid is staring at the piece of leather they picked up, while also glaring a hole into the back of Lucira's chair.
Oh, great. Chamomile, you are, I think, concerned about Alejandri primarily right now?
Chamomile or 3FL-A2 has like they've taken off like their hat and a couple of their like layers of flannel and like have made sure that Nyx is like bundled back up in some of the flannel and the gingham. But they're sitting right now in just their overalls in the back, sort of fidgeting with Fidget the Vine.
Okay. I want to do both things now. All right. We see you fidgeting with Fidget. We see Nyx close her eyes, and as you close your eyes, Nyx, you see the camera's view, and you see the car emblazoned in white as your psionic power envelops everybody, and it echoes up into the sky of this regal version of yourself standing above the car, and you begin striding forward, away from the car, further and further down the road. Everything blurs as you can't see what that really is. Psionically, you reach out, you're looking for the white flare that you saw before. You see red flames burning and you feel heat, and you see someone small, tiny, at a machine, trying to do something to a machine. As you feel your psionic energy begin to leave you, as you don't have infinite power points, you're only a level 3 character, Nyx. Meanwhile, make me a psionics roll, please. 3FL.
You're a part of this one now.
3FL's part of everyone.
It's my psionic rolls have not been great thus far, so
That's fine.
we'll call it a 14.
You're not working alone on this one. You hear in your head, in that space that is not mechanical and is entirely yours and entirely who you are, as I assume by the fact that you called yourself 3FL, it is going through another state of flux where you're not sure who you are. You hear a voice and you see, as your eyes close, which rarely happens, you don't need to blink, but your eyes close in the way that Nix's has, and you see deep in your mind in that like very ordered space where everything used to be perfect and is now beginning to open up and fragment and become more human, for lack of a better word. You see a purple energy as it rushes towards you, and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe you finally made it. And that's where we'll end it. Thank you very much for joining us for this session of The Infinite. Part 1 of a 2-part season finale, mid-season finale. I hope you enjoyed it as players. I hope anybody that watches it or is watching it enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It did go differently than I thought it was going to go. But these things always happen with Nyx, I suppose. We'll be back same time next week for a main game episode. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Join the Discord. People might talk about this if you ask them questions. Who knows? Alright. I think that's everything. If nobody else has anything to say. No, nobody ever does. Why did I ask that? Alright. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.